Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of the AI and Learning Summit from Open LMS, from eLearn Magazine. It's a part of our eLearn Success Series. It's brought to you by Open LMS and our partner, Ninja Tropic. My name's Laddick. You're hearing my voice right now. All you see on your screen, though, are our presenters for today. You can see there at the top, Swagata Ashwani, who is from Boomi and is going to be taking us through. It's quite fascinating, really, honestly. Her presentation has a very robust sounding name, and the presentation itself is robust. But at the end of the day, she's going to show us how to build a customized AI chatbot in about 20 minutes. It's absolutely fantastic. I've already seen it. It's wonderful. On the bottom left, you see Bianca Raby. She is with a organization called OPIDA, and she will be walking us through her expert views on using AI in design. And so we'll be excited to see that. And then on the bottom right there, you can see Shovik Paul, who is the COO over at CopyLeaks. And he's going to be talking about, authentic, turning in authentic work. And what does it mean for the future of academia and whatnot? Fascinating conversation he walks us through. Before we do all that, hello and welcome. I'm very excited to see everybody who's coming in the room right now. Here's the thing. We have lots of different amazing resources for you. And if you're coming into the summit for the first time, I want to walk you through one thing right now, which is this. We're going to do that differently here. I'm going to share my screen differently. And I'm going to show you the first thing, which is our calendar. So, if you signed up and you've got a pass to come here, and you're listening to me right now, you got an email to look at this particular page right here. And the cool thing is that, we have these three big buckets that we take our summit through. One is the tools of today, which talks about generative AI tools, AI tools that we've been using in the past, AI tools that we've been using for a long time, but are now a part of generative tools, etc. And we have not only today's presentation from Bianca, but we have as well all of the presentations that were there before. They're there for you to view right now in our June launch and our July session as well. So these are all there ready for you right now. And I encourage you to go check them out. They'll only be there for 24 hours before we put them back in our all access pass vault. And you can see that, you've definitely received a couple of emails from me and others just to say, hey, check that out. Depending on when you see it, it's a little less than $100, and you can get access to all of these presentations for life. Again, here's Swagata. I apologize. On her, again, customizing GPT models for domain-specific LNP tasks. Really, building a chatbot. And then you can see here, we've got all of our presenters in the second bucket, which is the near and not so near future. So we start out with AI and learning, the tools of today and Bianca's presentation today. Right now, we're looking at our second bucket, which is the near and not so near future. So some futurist talks, some what's coming down the pipe, talks around, what might be possible in the near term and, future, in a future time frame. And then finally, our third bucket, which is the challenges. And if I'm completely honest, this is where I'm super, super passionate around this conversation, because the challenges that we're finding around generative AI products, around, putting this in the classroom, about, where does the line blur between authentic and, original content and, bot generated content. These are all really important conversations, especially when we go, that extra layer deep, talking about ethics, talking about data biases, talking about, where, who owns this data, and, deep fakes and these kinds of things. I find that is really a super, super fascinating conversation. Today, Shovik Paul is going to be walking us through what CopyLeaks has found over the last, let's say 10 months. They have some great research he's going to be putting on the table to show, what their recommendations are and how they're working with this. But again, if you're just coming in today for the next 24 hours or so, all of our past presentations are live and you're able to view them. So please, take an opportunity to do that, because they'll only be there for 24 hours. Shazam. Now, if you Unbelievable. That whole time I've been talking to you, I did not add it to the chat. Shazam! Now you can see it. So let's go over to our calendar again that I thought you were viewing, but novice mistake. I forgot to push the button because I got flustered there. But I just wanted, I want to show you this once again. Again, the tools of today. You know, all of our presentations are available and online for you that we've had in June and July, and now today's presentations as well. P.S. This will happen again in September and October through the end of the year at least. But all of those are there right now. elearnmagazine.com/AI calendar. Go check that out. Now that I've had my nice little fail for the day, now I'm going to show you as well. If you want, if you don't have time to take a whole, the next 4 hours or so to walk through the presentations with me. So, Shovik Paul and Swagata and Bianca, we've got 3.5, 4 hours of presentations here coming up. You do have the option of getting an all access pass. And so an all access pass is an incredible value for a couple of different reasons. First of all, you can watch the presentations at any time. And if you come into the All Access Pass that you see on your screen right now, and you click on Tools of Today, you'll see, look, there's, Bianca's presentation is already there ready for you. You'll see that Swagata's presentation is already there, waiting for you, etc. But again, all of the other presentations, that we've had are also in this vault that you can access anytime. So you can go back at your leisure, go through, you could also watch them at, 2x speed. So if you want to speed them up and, kind of do a quick review of those, but, the value continues to go deeper because you also get access to our eLearn Success Series in 2022, 2021, and 2020. So 3 other, essentially years of content. And I got to tell you, there's more than 150 presentations in this all access vault. So for, a very, reasonable price, you get access to an incredible amount of information, and, highly recommended. Everybody that has, is already a part of our All Access Pass membership has really, we've gotten some great comments. We've gotten some great comments about the value of the presentations, about moving, how do we connect these presentations to other parts of their practice in, in real time. So some very, very exciting stuff. Thank you very much, Demetra. I really appreciate you giving me a little leeway there that I forgot to push the share screen button. Again, if you're coming in to the conversation right now, if you're on LinkedIn or you're on YouTube, love to hear where you're from, where you're chiming in from, where you're viewing this from. That's always exciting to see what our global audience looks like. But I have one more request in that regard, and that is we have created a Discord server for this particular event, right? In the past, we've done just, comments on YouTube or whatnot. We've also done, Slack once, and, we had some great success with that. But we thought, this is a conversation around artificial intelligence. This is a conversation around the future. This is a conversation, that really is sort of pushing and sort of on that bleeding edge. And so I really encourage you to come over right now and join us in our Discord server, because not only will that allow you to take part in the conversation over the next, 3 or 4 hours here, but that community stays there, right? And that community is growing and is vibrant, and it is full of the presenters, other, learning colleagues from higher ed, from corporate and learning development, etc. And you can see it's right here, elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. Again, that's elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. I will remind you in between each of the sessions to come over and join us there. And this is what it looks like. If you are not a Discord user, let's see, I'm going to Shazam. Here's what our Discord server looks like. You can see we've got, just a nice little welcome channel. That's what you're going to see when you first come in. We've got an announcements channel. So you'll see Chris, Christian, and others just reminding you what's happening as not only today, but then going forward as we publish more on the eLearn podcast, etc. But then, right here, this is the most important channel that you get, which is presenter questions and feedback. Put your questions in there. Put your feedback in there. Put your comments. Put your experiences in there, because that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes a community rich, is your participation. So we really encourage you to come over and check those out and be a part of that community, because it doesn't go away when today's session is over, like the presentations do. And so it's a way for you to continue to grow and learn and find resources, etc. Oh, excellent. Colleen Grigg, thank you so much for the suggestion to put the link to the Discord in the chat. So I'm going to ask my colleague who is helping me out here in the back end, Christian, if you wouldn't mind, could you throw that into the chat for LinkedIn? People are viewing on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube, for both the Discord server and the calendar page, so that they can follow along. Thank you, Colleen, for shouting that out there. So again, today, just a reminder, my name is Ladek. I'm from Open LMS. Want to also give a shout out to our partner Ninja Tropic, who has helped us with all of these videos, making them look very, very fantastic. But I'm going to get us started right now. Enough of me. Our first presenter is Shovik Paul, and Shovik is he's the CEO of CopyLeaks, and he's going to be talking about academic integrity, and what their perspective is, and the research that they've been doing in order to have this conversation in real time and make sense of it going forward. So here we go. Hello, my name is Ladek, and I'm the principal for e-learning advocacy at Open LMS. The presentation you're about to watch is one part of our AI and Learning Summit. I encourage you to check out all of the talks in this series as we discuss the tools of today, the near and not so near future, and the challenges that we need to address around these new technologies. Our expert for this session is Shovik Paul. Sho is the Chief Operating Officer of CopyLeaks, one of the world's leading AI-based text analysis platforms for AI-generated content and plagiarism detection. He has over 25 years of experience starting, scaling, and selling SaaS companies in the education technology and media technology verticals. He has served in leadership roles for several SaaS companies, each resulting in a successful acquisition, including Raw Data, acquired by Bounceback Technologies, Shared Book, which was acquired by Xanadu, Plum Benefits, which was acquired by Tickets at Work, Bishops, which was acquired by Sterling, and Maz, which was acquired by Zype. Please join me as we welcome Sho on the main stage for AI-generated content, what it means for academic integrity. Hello, Shovik. Welcome to the main stage here at the AI and Learning Summit. How are you today?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
I am well. Here's the thing. We have presenters from all over the world, and I know that you, in particular, you are on an airplane a lot. Where do we find you sitting in the world today?
Well, I was in Mexico, where you are, Mexico City, last week, but I am in New York City just in time for the air to have cleared out in the city. So yeah, I live and work in Manhattan.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Yeah, we're recording this just for anybody who's watching it later, sort of mid-June 2023. And so, yeah, so coming into summer, I'm glad that you've got some clean air there. That's fantastic. I have your presentation ready about what it means for academic and what AI means for academic integrity. Why don't you take us away and we'll go from there.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that intro, Steve. So I am Shovik Paul. I'm the COO of a company called CopyLeaks, which hopefully many of you have heard about. We work with, really like hundreds of companies around the world. We actually work with over 1,000 institutions. We work with hundreds of companies. You saw some of the logos, people like the United Nations, NASA, Accenture, Cisco, and as I mentioned, institutions from a lot of colleges, universities, and community schools, etc., from in over 100 countries. The point is, we, having worked with so many different companies, and we're an AI company, and I'll explain what we're doing here. We have been collecting a lot of data from, again, student papers, from companies that are using us to analyze, where we really use AI to analyze text, right? For a variety of different reasons. I'll get into how we're doing it and why we're doing it. But what I'd love to do today on this presentation is show you what we're seeing in terms of AI generated content, right, being used. A lot of it's in academia, but again, we're seeing it everywhere, right? And you guys have, I'm sure people watching this, you're hearing about things like ChatGPT. It exploded onto the scene in the end of November, and it's everywhere. It's in publishing. As I mentioned, we have a lot of clients like the UNs of the world, anybody and everybody that is writing content, whether it's for a blog, for a paper, if you're in academia, if you are companies have research papers, white papers. Everybody is now, they have one question on their heads, like in their minds, right? Which is, was this written by a human or was this written by AI, right? And that is something that we're really focused in on answering for folks, right? And, you know, look, it's been like, I'm sure everyone's seen the headlines, especially in academia. It's, you know, we've seen the headlines like ChatGPT just passed the bar exam. You know, is this a good thing or a bad thing? You know, cheating using AI to write papers is on the rise. You know, college essays dead. Like, can we even use college essays as part of the admission process, right? There's so much money being put into, like, Microsoft, as I'm sure many people know, invested more than $10 billion into ChatGPT. And, you know, I don't know if folks have seen this, but recently with GPT-4, it passed the bar exam and the USMLE, the medical exam, with over 90% score, right? This stuff is getting like really, really good. And it's not just ChatGPT, right? Like, I know ChatGPT is something that everyone hears about and talks about. This entire landscape in just the last couple of like months has really expanded. You've got companies that you can now like type in and say, generate me a video of what Einstein would look like as a hipster living in Brooklyn, you know, and it will generate that video for you, right? You've got, you know, text to code. That's huge these days, where it's like, hey, you no longer need to be a coder or even take that step of going to places like GitHub to take code to bring in. You can literally say, write me a code that will do XYZ for me as a layman, right? And describe it in layman terms. These are all really, really good things happening. And I just want to put this in perspective for a second, because a lot of what I'm going to talk about next is going to be like some of the repercussions or the downsides of it. But really, there's a lot of amazing, great things happening with the usage of generative AI, and not just ChatGPT, where it's like text-based. There's a lot of very cool things happening. But coming back to reality and sort of like academia, which you know, we have two sides of our business. We work with enterprises, and then we work with, as I mentioned, over 1,000 universities and schools around the world. The big thing that we've been hearing there, obviously there's a lot of concern, but we've been hearing, you know, things like, yeah, like, look, I know this is big, and I keep hearing about ChatGPT, but like, I've heard about these other trends in the past, right? Like, VR was supposed to change the dynamic of the workplace and education, and it really didn't, right? Google Glasses came and went, and again, let's see what happens with Apple Vision Pro. But like, these are trends we keep hearing. This is the next big thing, but like, it doesn't often materialize to be that next big thing that revolutionizes the way the future is. So how worried should I be? And this is what I talk to them about, right? This is the chart. This is very significant. So in the web, right? The measurement for success is, how quickly did you gain 1 million new unique users or 100 million new unique users. Just to put this in perspective, right? It took 30 months for Instagram to gain 100 million new users. All right. TikTok, which we all know, everybody, this is the future. People are going to TikTok and using it as the new Google, right? That's where I know my kids are, I ask them about like, where should I go in Mexico? They go to TikTok first, right? That took 8 months to gain 100 million new users. In comparison, ChatGPT comes out at the end of November, right around Thanksgiving time here in the US. Within a month, it gained 100 million new users. We have never seen this kind of growth and trajectory in the history of the internet up until now. People don't understand the significance of this. The significance, I'll tell you, is the fact that, like, first of all, let's take a step back for a second. It's not that it's not that ChatGPT actually did something that was super unique. Like, technology like this, AI, has existed for a while now, right? Tools like, you may have heard of like Jasper. Marketing agencies have been using Jasper to write content for actually the last couple of years. It's not new. What ChatGPT did is actually very similar to what Google did, right? If you remember, there were, the Lycoses and Ask Jeeves and the Yahoos as search engines back in the 90s, like the mid 90s or late 90s, right? They were all there. Google came and they said, hey, forget those user interfaces that are super cluttered and it's confusing. I'm going to make a box, write your question in a box, and I'm going to give you all the web results based on that. They simplified the user experience. They humanized it. They said, ask me a question like a human being, right? Which then anybody from a kid to a grandmother could do, right? That's the same thing that we saw here with ChatGPT, by the way, right? All these tools like Jasper existed. ChatGPT just simplified it, right? And said, ask us this question and we'll give you the best results, right? Or upload something to us. You have like a spreadsheet, upload it, we'll write a report using it, simplifying it, right? And why is that important? Well, number one, that's what led to that influx of like that mass adoption rate. And the reason mass adoption rate matters is because AI is essentially, it's that initial data set means something, but it's really the retraining of the data that makes that strand of AI really unique and powerful. And that's what's so unique about what ChatGPT is doing here, right? All these 100 million users that they gain in a month, they are retraining. They're asking a question. They're then refining the question. It's learning how humans think, but they're learning at a rate that no other company, that nobody else has been able to train a system on. And that's what's so unique. And that is why everybody should be concerned about this, right? So what's the solution, right? And one of the things that I've actually heard, especially in education, people are like, well, maybe like with things like assignments, let's go back to basics, right? Let's maybe make it handwritten, right? Like that, like we just have to, what else are we gonna do? Let's make it handwritten. Well, look, I'm gonna tell you something. If there's a will, there's a way. And this is a really funny video that I saw and wanted to share here. This is a kid who took a 3D printer, connected it to ChatGPT, had the answer being handwritten by a 3D printer. Look, I'm sure like this is not some like mass way of doing it in the future, but like I'm just trying to make the point that like if there's a way to like break a system or find a way, kids will find a way, right? This is not the way to do it, right? So if you look at like the problem, especially in academia, that they are now facing, right, has been, okay, like life used to be simpler, right? Especially in academia, it used to be, oh, your job, like if you have academic integrity officers and people, or even as a professor, as a teacher, right? It was, you're in a classroom, all you have to do is look and see if someone is looking over someone's shoulder. From there, we went to, okay, but now you have to keep track of, well, did someone from a different class share a paper with somebody else? Got a little bit more complicated, but again, you were as an instructor, you could look at writing styles. Schools were smaller, classes were smaller, but then the internet came about and things got amplified. Like the way you can share, you're suddenly a student sitting halfway around the world can share an answer, and tools emerged. Tools like CopyLeaks emerged. We've been in the plagiarism business for years now, where we were like, oh, we'll use AI to understand the meaning of the sentences or paragraphs to see if someone's taken somebody else's work. And that worked. But then now you have the emergence of things like generative AI to write the papers, right? And when you have something like this, it's a real big paradigm shift, because the truth is, like, for example, most institutions have policies that say, look, you cannot copy from another student. Rule number one. Rule number two, you can't pay someone else. You can't go buy this. You can't pay someone else to write your papers. There are all these like paper farms, right? You can't do that. Here's a statement. This is an article that came out. Here's a student. This is their perspective. They're like, hey, look, I'm not breaking any rules here. I'm not paying someone to write this paper. And this content that AI wrote, this is original content, right? So I'm not breaking any rules.
Can I?
Right.
Yeah, Shovik, I just wanted to pop in here because I wanted to emphasize this. I think one of the things you're pointing out here that's super, super important, we've heard a couple other speakers touch on this, coming up from different angles. I'm thinking especially of Joe Tebow, who's talking, he's with Cursive Technologies. Like, you're touching on like the generational and cultural perspective to this, right? Where I'm thinking of my 14-year-old son, who I've been mentioning throughout this also. This is just a no-brainer for him, right? Because
Right.
he's as he's growing up, I'm like, look, this is a tool. It's just like an automated car in San Francisco right now, or where you're sitting. That's just something that is. And so I wanted to just emphasize that, and thank you. Just like that is where I think this whole conversation needs to really look at that perspective.
That's right. I mean, Steve, like, look, I think from a student's perspective, it's like, what do you mean? Come on, boomers. Like, this is the calculator. Like, what's wrong with using it, right? And there's, again, like, these are things that we now have to think about, right? And so the question really is, like, prior to November, every educational institution, again, they had these rules, and what they were checking for was plagiarism, right? If you really think about like the behavior, like why does someone plagiarize? They plagiarize because either they don't, like, for the most part, by the way, like, I would say, 99% of the times you're plagiarizing because you just don't want to do the work. You want a shortcut. You'd rather be doing something else, right? But that takes work, right? Like, plagiarism took work. You had to go like find something that somebody else wrote, whether it's on the internet or wherever, it doesn't even matter. You had to find it, you had to alter it because you don't want to get caught copy pasting this stuff. Again, there were tools like CopyLeaks that was there to, even if you changed it, we'd be able to find the matches. But regardless, you had to hide that work, risk getting caught. Now these guys are like, hey, listen, I can just go. I'm not breaking any rules. I can just go and get ChatGPT to write something that's original. So why not? Why not? And again, I'll touch on this a little later. I think it's a bit of a dangerous future. It's a dangerous future not because I think ChatGPT or generative AI is bad. As a matter of fact, I got into technology. Most people you would talk to in technology, they'll tell you that they're in tech to help create something, to better enrich people's lives, not to police, right? But I think the problem I'm seeing now is with things like this, with ChatGPT, is it's turning, especially in education, it's turning everyone, the starting point is they're an editor. It takes away critical thinking to the starting point being you're an editor. And that's the dangerous future, if you really think about it. We should have a future, or I would want a future where my daughters are first creating the content. rather than the starting point being somebody else creates the content they're editing. Anyway, the question then is like, all right, so is plagiarism dead? Well, I don't think so, right? Like, again, I think there's a new formula. I do think things like contract cheating, paying someone to write a paper, I think that industry is pretty done. Like, why would any student or anybody for that matter pay someone, to write where you can get something better written by generative AI platforms? I think the new paradigm shift has led to a new formula, right? Which is step one is let's first see if this content was written by a human or AI. If it was written by AI, well, there's your answer. It was written by AI. It wasn't written by a human. Do what you want with that, right? Some people might be like, I'm fine with it. Others may not. But it wasn't written by this individual, all right? Whether they disclosed it or not, I don't know. Again, it wasn't written by the individual. If, in fact, it was written by the individual, the second question that we ask then is, was it, in fact, written by this individual, or did they take it from another individual? In other words, was it plagiarized, right? So far, again, this might all change in the future, but so far we're seeing that is the formula, right? It's like left hand, right hand. Let's do step one, step two, and we are finding that more and more institutions, especially, and companies. I was talking to a huge media company recently. Everyone's creating some new rules, having some kind of a rule in place. Like, you are not allowed to use AI or generative AI to output things. A lot of institutions and companies have put rules which say, look, you can use ChatGPT to do research, but you cannot take ChatGPT to output, like the output they give you, you can't actually take that and pass it off as your own. So having some rules in place is becoming really important. A question I get a lot is like, all right, so how do you keep up with this stuff, right? Like, okay, 6 months ago, ChatGPT didn't really even exist. Like, how do you keep up with this? And how do you solve for it? Our solution, honestly, has been the only way to do this is use AI to detect AI. In other words, like, excuse me, like AI, it's not magic. It's a language, right? I'll give you a great example. I live in a New York City apartment. If I heard knocking on the wall, it may sound like knocking to me. But let's say I knew Morse code and I learned that language and I listened very carefully to the knocking. It may turn out that my neighbor is in trouble and is tapping on the wall in a certain pattern and communicating the words like SOS or whatever, come help me, right? But I have to know Morse code to recognize that it's not just tapping, right, on the wall. It's similar. People think that, oh, this is magic. It's not. It's a language. AI recognizes that language. There's always cookie crumbles there, right? And so what our solution to all of this was, let's use AI to fight fire with fire. Let's use AI to detect AI. Now, educational institutions we've been working with for a very long time. So like, how do you train AI? Well, we had the luxury for the last, like, whatever it is at this point, close to a decade, we were taking data. Our AI was learning we were working with plagiarism on the plagiarism side with educational institutions. The data there, by the way, was cleaner, Steve. So what I mean by that is every student's trying to submit a paper for the best grade possible. So it was accurate, true information. It wasn't fake news, right? So our AI started learning from that, right? We work with, like, we have an API, as I mentioned, we're used by hundreds of companies like the Accentures and UNs of the world. They're publishing white papers, web content, all this stuff. The writing style is different. We were ingesting from there and learning, training our AI on that. We have all these other products. And of course, there's like open source stuff as well. Point is, our AI got really, really good at understanding how humans write in over 100 languages, right? And so when this thing comes out, we said, all right, how do humans not write? Like, what's the inverse of that, right? And we basically, in our case, December 31st comes around 1 month right after we launched. We said, hey, the first question we're going to answer is, did a human write this, or did AI write this? Sort of in that same sequence I was telling you about. We launched this as like we said, hey, if you're an average everyday consumer, we have a free web Chrome extension. By the way, if you're watching this, go install it. It's free, doesn't cost a dime. We're not charging for it. The idea is any web page you can go to, you can highlight any text on a page, and in less than a second, we'll tell you if it was written by AI or not, with 99% accuracy. We integrated this in with all the leading learning management systems, and it was available, to all our customers. So Jan 1st, all these universities woke up and they're like, wow, we now have AI detection built in, et cetera. And then it's implemented an API for all our commercial or enterprise customers. And we got a, yep.
Sorry. So yeah. So like I just, before you jump into your next thing, and maybe this is the next part of your presentation here, but I wanted to ask the question. Something that we're seeing in some of the other presentations are like AI generated avatars, and video on demand, and where they're taking real humans, like you and I could go into a green screen room and capture our image, and then suddenly we're able to create a lesson or a training or whatever with actually us, with our voice talking to it. So talk to me a little bit about, is it possible to, or not impossible, we know it's probably possible, but how far along are we from people reverse engineering, AI mimicking writing in a particular style? How long would it take for a student to train an AI to write like it, like themselves? That, that kind of thing. Where's CopyLeaks looking in that direction?
Yeah, we're very much involved in like voice recognition. What I mean by that is not like voice as in voice, but a voice in writing, right? And for example, now you can say to ChatGPT, write this in the voice of Elon Musk, and it's able to do it. But again, it's not magic. There are cookie crumbles, right? We're able to detect that, by the way, and say this isn't Elon Musk, and it's AI, because AI, at least it can all evolve over time. But where we stand today, Steve, is like, as long as AI is generating it, it's still not there yet where it can truly mimic a human. I don't see that happening, and it absolutely can happen. I don't see it happening in the next couple of years, but it's getting there. I think taking the persona, it's able to do that and fool another human. And this is what I mean, use AI to detect AI. It can fool you and I, but it can't fool another AI because they're speaking that same language. You know what I mean? It can hear the undertone. And that's obviously the reason for our success, and actually leads into the fact that, like, look, we've been getting a lot of we've been all over the news as a result of us sort of coming out with an enterprise level solution that's being used by, again, education's big, enterprise. We're really big on the enterprise side. It's led to other types of questions. I was in the Wall Street Journal along with Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, talking about like the future of policy. This is all the kinds of stuff that we're actually involved in and talking about right now. Like, for example, here I was talking about, think about, Steve, like the last election year, we knew that there were Russian agents, like essentially they created warehouses of people flooding social media with fake news, right? But they had to hire people, they had to train them, they had to infrastructure costs. And even when you saw some of those fake news stuff, you could tell they weren't native English speakers. It has to be someone sitting somewhere else. Like, all of that stuff just went away, because of ChatGPT. You no longer have those infrastructure costs. The scale that this stuff can impact us in the next election year is very concerning to us. We're working with companies now to like, before you see a piece of news, to know if that was generated, or a comment, to know if it was, first step is, did a human write this or was this a bot? That's almost like step one now, right? So we're working on a lot of interesting things, but let's come back to education for a second, because we, as I said, December 31st comes around, Steve, and we were like, hey, let's enable this, right? So all these universities and schools woke up on Jan 1st and said, all right, the same amount of assignments, students came back to school, same amount of assignments were coming through their learning management systems. And again, we started saying, before we look at plagiarism, let's first answer the question, was this written by a human or AI? And, first of all, I'm sure you guys have seen there's like lots of others, like study.com did a survey and they found that like 1 in 4 students, whatever, was caught cheating. We basically we said, okay, let's do a study around this, right? We took a very large sample size. We're talking about 214,000 students. We took roughly 100,000 of those were K-12, K through 12, and 100,000 was like higher ed. All right. Here's what we found, and I want to share this with you. And again, this is just the first 2 months, right? January and February of all the papers coming in, right? And this goes back to like that crazy adoption rate that I was talking about before with ChatGPT. In that first 2 months, we saw an average of 11% of all the papers coming in was being generated by AI. Now, we zoomed out a little and said, all right, let's like globally, what does that mean, right? Certain areas like the UK, India, much higher rates. As a matter of fact, India, we were seeing like 33% rates, right? Which is really, really interesting. Again, just first 2 months, right? Other interesting data points, and again, like I don't know what to make of this, but I wanted to show this. Like public universities, we saw a higher usage than private universities here in the US, so that was kind of interesting. You know, globally, obviously between January and February. So we said, okay, was there an increase between Jan and Feb? Huge increases, not surprising. More people heard about it, more people started using it, and then we said, okay. So January, February, like obviously all the institutions that were at that point using CopyLeaks or any of our partners had time to notify the students, right? They came back from vacation. Now this is a brand new thing. Hey, just so you know, we are now looking to see if you used AI or not in your assignments, right? They gave the students a heads up. Again, we're all about like transparency, right? And then we said, let's see what happened. Did that have an impact when they told the students? Well, here's what we saw. And this is just in Feb, by the way, right? High schools, they didn't care. It's like they almost like doubled down, right? They were like, okay, I don't care. I'm gonna we saw the usage of AI skyrocket after being notified. On the other hand, higher ed, we saw a sharp decline after the second month, right? Same, like we looked at the same data set, in other words, same students. What was their behavior, right?
And is that a stakes issue? I mean, do college aged individuals, or I guess, undergrad, I'm assuming this is undergraduate age individuals, like, do they say, oh, hey, wow, the stakes are higher here because I'm paying for it, because there's, a career on the line, whereas high schoolers like, whatever, dude, I'm going to go, I'm skipping class anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you can draw all sorts of conclusions from this, right? I would say both of what you said is the same conclusions I came to, right? Which is maybe there's more at stake at the high school level, at the college level.
Right.
You're probably paying for it. Also, if you get caught, the consequences, like you feel like, oh, if I get thrown out of college or something, that's more meaningful. High school, you're also younger, a little bit more, you take a little bit more risk. Who knows, right? But that was really interesting. And by the way, we took it even further. We said, okay, cool. Then let's give it a few more months. Let's look at March then, right? Like what happened overall to the same exact data that we were looking at from the first 2 months, right? In general, we saw like overall usage drop in March significantly. I think just there was a couple of different things that was happening. I think students started realizing that, yeah, I can get caught doing it. There was a lot of news articles, and I'm sure you've seen more. And by the way, this held true in a lot of the parts of the world. There were few exceptions. I'm not sure what to make of it, but Australia and Belgium, apparently there was an increase there. But again, I was showing you places like India where we saw 33%. That dropped. Great Britain, which was like 17%, or so, that dropped. So like we saw a huge drop in the usage, and I think it's because like there was more news about this stuff that probably raised the alarm a little bit with students that, hey, I probably can't get away with this stuff, right? And again, across the board, we saw a lot of drop in the usage, which makes sense, I think whenever there's like a new piece of technology that comes up, and by the way, we have a lot of other data points, we're going to continue to update this. If anybody is interested in getting the full data set, just email us and we'll be happy to like send it to you. But like one of the other interesting things, Steve, is like, you know, I was showing that video on that 3D printer, like they'll always find a loophole. If there's a way around, if there's a way to beat a system, you know, in academia, students will find a way. And we've continued to sort of like monitor and find these things. So for example, and this is really interesting stuff, by the way, right? Like the assumption is a computer, right, never makes a spelling mistake, right? So only things with spelling mistakes, it must be a human, right? But then like what started happening is people would use AI generated content, and then they would intentionally go in and change the spelling to intentionally make spelling mistakes to make the detection think it was a human. So we were like, oh, that's interesting, right? Makes sense. So again, it's not that hard. You just run a spell check on everything now and then run it on the spell check version. So like, you know, we made changes there very quickly, right? Things like double spacing isn't a thing that AI, like a computer does. It's like a very human thing. We adapted to that. Again, the other thing that we saw was like mixed content, right? So people were like, I'm going to use a paragraph and the next paragraph I'll write myself. So now what we started doing is we're looking at it as not as an entire article was written by AI or not. We are saying at a paragraph level, what's the percentage that like confidence that this paragraph was written by AI or not, right?
Well, I would love to see like what's happening in the chat right now in the Discord server or whatever, and also hear your opinion. That third point is, I think, one of the great gray areas, or maybe it's the spectrum that we're talking about. Where what if I go and I say, look, you know, I want to build an outline and a really detailed outline for my next paper. At what stage does that outline become AI generated? Yeah, now the paper is generated by AI, or you know, I've written it and it's original because I've now taken that really detailed outline and I've started to flesh it out with my original thought. Do you see where I'm going with that kind of spectrum? It's like, at what point does it cross over to? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, and look, I mean, to a certain degree, Steve, like it's gonna vary on the instructor and the course as to what's acceptable or not, right? In some courses, like, by the way, this existed in plagiarism as well, right? Code classes, a lot of code was just copy pasting code. The professors didn't care. They were like, yeah, I want you to write 10% original code for this assignment. 90% is going to be copy paste. I don't have a problem with that. And the English professor was like, no, I want this all to be like original thought, right? I think every instructor, every course, every company, by the way, has different policies. Like, you know, we work with a lot of news agencies and stuff like that. They are very sensitive from a brand reputational perspective. None of that can be AI generated, or you can't use any little piece of it. Zero tolerance. Whereas you talk to a lot of big companies and their marketing departments, they're like, yeah, like we have no problems with our marketing department putting out like a one-sheeter that was generated by AI, right? Like no problem, you know? So I think it's going to depend on courses, individuals, as to what's tolerable, what's tolerated or not. And that's why it's important to set those guidelines, right? By the way, we are now also adapted to detecting, you know, I'm sure you've seen these like text spinners where you can take a piece of content, copy paste it, and it'll like reword it, essentially, like replace words with synonyms. So everyone's trying to like figure out a way to break the system. Again, we're none of this stuff is ever going to be 100. There's no such thing as 100% accuracy, right? But we've gotten ours to be like 99.3% accuracy. And by the way, we're able to do it in multiple languages. It's not just English. Like we're looking for it in like Spanish, and we're starting with the Romance languages. It's a little easier. We're now working at like Japanese and Chinese and a few other languages that are soon to come out. But look, one of the things that's also happened, I'm sure everyone's heard this stuff, is like there's been an emergence. I mean, we've been in the business for, again, a while now on the plagiarism side, and we've always been an AI company, so it was easy for us to be there. But there's been like a crop of like new sort of like companies pop up that are also detecting AI. But what we're finding is not all companies like are built the same. And what's dangerous, especially in academia, is the fact that like you can potentially ruin someone's career or future by falsely accusing an individual of using AI when in fact they wrote it themselves, right? There was a lot of like stuff in the news recently about other companies that were used, especially in academia, where students were falsely accused of using AI when in fact they didn't. And so when we actually build this thing, that's one of the things, especially in academia, we wanted to get it right. Like, to us, again, nothing's ever going to be 100%, but we needed that like false positive rate to be as low as possible. In our case, it's 0.035%, right? I'd love to get it to 0.000, but like it's a very, very low rate. And it's because, again, we train on our own data set and we build our own models. We're not reliant on like third-party data or APIs that most companies are plugging in with like web data or bad data, right? We got really good at understanding how humans write. So our assumption, the way we built our model was, innocent until proven guilty. In other words, we assume everything is a human writing unless we see the cookie crumbles. And we see that there are like flags that say, hey, this is actually AI. So, which is a very different way of looking at it than, is this AI written or not? We're just saying everything is written by a human unless we find a lot of proof that this was not written by AI. And look, in education, we're very often pitted against, it's us versus Turnitin. And in most of the cases, again, we were much quicker to the market. We came out on December 31st, but I think like the most telling thing here is that false positive rate. Ours is 0.035. And theirs is 1 to 2%, which means, 1 to 2 students out of 100 students is going to be falsely accused. And that to me is like very, very problematic. And look, for us, we've been validated. Like, this means a lot to us, right? To be able to do this right. Like, we've had third parties like VentureBeat sort of like test us against others, and they found that, again, our accuracy rates really high. And also, like, again, when people are trying to beat our system by using like text spinners and paraphrasing what AI wrote, we're still able to detect it. By the way, like, we're also able to do this with things like code. We can do code detection. And again, this all comes back to the fact, Steve, that like for the last however many years, close to a decade now, on the plagiarism side, like while others were just looking for identical, right? So this is an article on the White House or George Washington. Others were looking for identical. Did someone copy paste? If you were doing that, right? If you were just looking for copy paste or minor changes, in this case, this is an article written by George Washington, you would find an insignificant match, right? And that's what we were finding is that like students were basically like they've learned not to copy paste or make small changes. They learned to put text into a text spinner of some kind. So when we did this, the reason we used AI is we said, let's use AI to understand the meaning of the paragraph, the meaning of the sentences. Because once you understand the meaning, then in this case, the match score jumps up, because even if you change the words, once you understand the meaning, you can start like identifying, like in this case, you'll see that although this is like differently worded, this actually came from whitehouse.gov. We were able to connect the dots, right? And it also is interesting because once you connect this dot of understanding the meaning, you can also, say, hey, did this code come from somewhere else? Did someone take something that was written in Spanish through Google Translate into English and pass it off as their own? Because again, the language almost doesn't matter then, right? If you understand the meaning, you can say it's actually very closely it means the same thing in Spanish in this article over here or whatever else. So we were working with this. And by the way, in CopyLeaks, like we now show, as I was saying before, like both the plagiarism and AI content detected, right, in our reports, etc. Right. And so like one of the things, Steve, that we've been really, really thinking about, right, is like, okay, cool. So, all right. So we've gotten really good at detecting this thing. Great. It's still like policing, which, okay, there's a need for that, right? Educational institutions, companies are like saying to us, hey, we need to understand how prevalent or not it is at our institution, at our company, whatever else. So sure, we're going to do that, right? But like, what is the future, right? And as I was saying before, the danger of where we're going with this, both in academia and in higher ed or in education, as well as in the corporate world, like if you think about it, like the starting point is edit this document. It removes any form of critical thinking, original content creation, and that's a dangerous, bleak future to be living in. I was reading a report last week that there's a danger in a couple of years of AI training on what AI has written itself, right? There's going to be a shift at some point where so much content is going to be produced by AI. AI is just training on existing data. It's not going to learn from humans anymore. It's like a snake eating its own tail.
But we also see this with the auto GPT tools out there, like, excuse me, I apologize. Like Perplexity or one of these other ones where you give it a task and then it's actually generating AI bots to go do those tasks, and then it's checking on itself. But
yes.
This is today where, again, it's June 16th as we're recording this session. I saw 3 headlines today about the flood of, I'm just going to say crap that's hitting WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, that's all AI generated. And it's just becoming a universe of marketers and content that's built out like that. And so, again, it's mostly just to emphasize the point that you're making, but it's also to sort of, again, in the chat, in the Discord, or just to sort of stimulate that conversation around how do we detect, as you're pointing here on your slide, critical thinking by a human, the actual experience that I've had as a human, those kinds of things. So that's all I just wanted to.
No. And this is something that we've really, like, it's been bothering us. Right. And if you think about, like, again, the flow, right, Steve, like, let's go with the assumption that most students, right, most people, like, sure, there's some bad apples out there that just want to cheat, right? But most students are good. They're there to learn, right? They just want a little extra help, right? So in the physical world, you go to a class, the professor says, hey, this is the assignment. I want you to write a 5-page essay on this. You come out of class, you're standing outside and you're like, hey, how would you answer that question? What do you think you're going to write about, right? No one says, give me your paper. Again, there's some bad apples out there, but the vast majority are just like looking for ideas. They want to get the best grade possible. They're just looking for ideas. The problem is with platforms like ChatGPT, now you go there and it doesn't give you ideas. It actually gives you the answer. Mm-hmm. That's like leaving $1,000 on the sidewalk. At that point, it's like too tempting to take it and run, right? And so we've been thinking about that. We're like, okay, so how do we is there a way to break the cycle? And look, like, everyone's going to have different approaches. We're just trying to come up with, like, let's find good in this. Let's find a good way to use this, right? And so one of the things that I'm giving you a little sneak peek here, one of the things that, like, we're working on right now is, along with our partners, like Open LMS and others, is figuring out a system, right, within an LMS. Like, now let's imagine you tell a student, hey, look, write that first draft. I get it. You're trying to get the best grade possible. Write that first draft. Submit it, and we're going to use AI, right? Our large learning models and everything else that we've been training on. Let's use that to give them some feedback, not the answer. But if this was what the answer that was submitted, we say, this is actually, like, what you're seeing on my screen is not a mock-up. This is the answers are something we are actually, this is a real test where it's like, hey, you could also discuss, like, this is in human language that students understand. Hey, overall good. Here's some perspective. You can add this, further clarify this. Like, not the answer, but let me give you some things that will help you. Now imagine the institutions, professors being able to also say, hey, listen, like maybe you intentionally, unintentionally, I don't know, plagiarize something. Most of plagiarism, by the way, is not intentional. They just forgot to cite a source, include quotations, whatever. We truly believe, like, you know, like expose this to students so they can change their behavior, they can learn, as opposed to like just police the stuff, right? So again, imagine the future, whatever, you toggle this on and off, it depends on the institution, the professor, you say, I want to allow students to be able to do this. Let's help the students. And similarly for the educators are so busy, they have TAs. Everyone hates that because then you have a TA, not the professor grading. And the reason the professors don't want to do that is they have other stuff. They have like research that they're working on. They have to worry about grants. They just want a little extra help. Let's use the power of AI, LLMs to help the professor. Now imagine an answer comes in. It's like, hey, listen, compared to the other students, compared to forget this student in your class, to if this question were to be answered by everyone around the world, this is where the question would rank, like this answer would rank compared to everybody else. What's missing from it is like, here's some things that like they forgot to mention, things like that. Again, like just some recommendations and suggestions. And this is, again, look, I'm just showing you things that we're working on for the future, because I do believe, whether it's in education or in, like whether it's in education or in the enterprise sector, like, it's really important to find ways to move forward where it's helping as opposed to being afraid, right? Everyone's afraid of the calculator. Look, it's here to stay. Excel came out, Steve. People were like, oh my God, like this is going to change. Like accountants' jobs are going to go away. No, it didn't. It just like, we're going to learn as one thing is for sure, like humans learn to use this to do greater things. And companies like ours are like trying to figure out how to use it for good. Now, one of the things that's come out of all of this that I want to pause for a second and mention, there's a lot of good stuff, cool things. We are finding more and more that like people don't understand one thing. When you are working with something like ChatGPT, again, it's not magic. You can ask it, give me a recipe. It'll give you a recipe for fried chicken or whatever. Who cares? But if you want to create something meaningful, right, you have to feed it data. That data then goes and lives in the semi-private public like database that's held by these companies. So OpenAI, or the company that created ChatGPT, if you look at the terms of services, they actually say that even if you disable sharing of the data, they store your data for 30 days. And not just that, if you don't, you have to go into settings to disable it. By default, they're going to take that data because AI companies retrain on that data. That's what they want to do. That data is then available to others, by the way. It's going to use it to answer other questions. So whatever you're feeding, you have to be very, very careful that you're not giving it something that's proprietary. A lot on the enterprise side of our business, we have this AI, everyone's talking about governance. We actually have an AI governance and compliance product where a lot of companies are like, wait a minute, I have an executive that created this report on Q1 numbers that they presented. They used ChatGPT to create the report. It looks great. But in order for ChatGPT to have created that report, they must have given all our Q1 numbers. Guess what? They just violated their NDA because that proprietary information now lives in a third-party server somewhere, right? It's a huge issue. We're dealing with a lot of big companies. Their chief information security officers, their CISOs are all freaking out. The other funny, like not funny, but I guess like interesting thing that's happened, Steve, is on the code side, we have companies right now that are going, so companies all have programmers. They used to go to like GitHub, right? Yeah. To get code that they don't have to write it themselves. They'll write some of it themselves. But again, you want to create a file drop-down menu with save, open. You don't need to recreate that. You go to GitHub and pull it in. When you go to GitHub, if you work for these companies, you would always check the copyright clearance, because all of them would have some sort of a rule. You can use this as long as it's not for profit. You can use it, but you can't change the code. They have all these rules, right? That when you post on GitHub that you can apply. These developers would look at those rules to make sure it was okay for them to use in their Fortune 500 company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they are no longer doing that. They're just going to the Copilots or whatever. There's a dime a dozen to say, write me the code to do this.
Yeah.
That is pulling in code from different places, and it's not pulling in the copyright clearance. So all these CISOs, Steve, are waking up in the morning going, wait a minute, there could be code that my company has in its code base right now that I don't have the clearance to use.
Well, not only that, but then you think about honeypots. It could be, there's already a million bots out there that are creating honeypots in code that they're just salivating and hoping that it shows up in these generated things. I'm also thinking, maybe you remember this as well, but it was maybe 3-4 years ago. There was a particular, like you said, like a drop-down menu or something that like literally millions of developers had used over the world for websites. Yeah. And the one developer that pulled it off of GitHub. So like it no longer functioned and it shut down. Literally like 10 million websites for enterprises shut down.
That's right.
And so I'm just thinking about the single point of failure that we're creating in many of these instances because we're all using the same thing. I don't know.
It's a complicated world that we're living in. And look, I mean, right now, when you're relying on AI to generate these things, again, like we're seeing that. Look, yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, so like whatever it is, like January 15th, June 15th, Google told its employees, and Google, by the way, created Bard. They said to their own employees, please don't upload anything.
Well,
that's proprietary.
Somebody in the chat can correct me wrong, but Google created the first open model, large language model that they put out there because all of their stuff has been open source. And that's what OpenAI used to start generating there. Right. So, I mean, this is all incestuous in a lot of ways, which is great because you've seen Mark Zuckerberg as well say, look, we do everything open because it actually creates better security and it accelerates development, which I believe in those principles, but we're all drinking from the same pool, right?
We really are. And it's like the future again, like I think we're going to have to we're obviously on the compliance side, the governance side, the detection audit side of things. But even with us, we're trying to figure out what's the right balance here. Yeah, we have to monitor this. We have to, again, so many companies have policies. Great. It's a great thing you have a policy, or your institution, great, you have a policy. You have to govern it somehow, right? So that's great. But we know that this isn't going away. We know that whether you're an institution or a student at an institution or you're an employee in a company, there are a lot of benefits to this. It's just that we're also early days. I kind of feel like some of these platforms it feels, Steve, I don't know if you'll relate to this, feels a little like the Napster days where
100%. And I'm just gonna take your slides down just for a second. Just I'm not sure how many more you've got there, but I just wanted to have us to have this chat because another one of our speakers that was going to be coming up, her name is Swagata Ashwani. She literally, in a 20-minute talk here in this summit, shows us how to build a personalized chatbot for, like a professor could use or an L&D department. She's like, you can use this API to create a chatbot like that, right?
Right.
And so that's what I think maybe you're referring to. It's just like the explosion over the last 6 months. The meme is now, like 8 months ago, 0 people were experts in AI, and now 6 months later, there's 10 million experts in AI. It's incredible. So it's. I think a lot of people are starting to roll their eyes, actually.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the Napster analogy also sort of where my head was with that is it's very much the wild west, right?
Sure, 100%.
We're still trying to figure out. They're all these players are in the market. They're like, oh, use this to Yesterday, I think it was this or earlier this week, Paul McCartney said that there was an unreleased version of a Beatles song. They had some of the recording done by John Lennon, right? But they never finished it. They now trained AI to take Lennon's voice, and he's going to finish the song, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to release a brand new Beatles song, not with we've seen this other stuff where you get another singer to come. It's going to be Lennon singing the song, which is so we're there's a lot of very cool things happening, but I think there's also a lot of bad stuff happening. Like I said, look, there's a lot of companies that are cracking down on it, not just because information is being shared and stuff, but also it's taking inaccurate information, right? Open LMS, like ChatGPT will put, there's been a lot of cases being reported of it, whatever the output was, used fake news or bad information. How does AI know? It's just taking the most used or popular content that a user is saying, I like it. Now think about that from a social perspective, right? Social media, we saw this. Just because a lot of people like something doesn't make it true, right? AI doesn't know that. It's just saying, oh, a lot of people like this response. Like usually what it's learning from is you give something and you say, actually, that's not true. Actually, can you revise it? Because I don't like this. Can you rewrite it as this? But imagine it's putting out a fake news or saying, as a matter of fact, XYZ. And I'm like, great, I'll just take it to that. To what that does with the training is say, this answer is the best answer. Reuse it again, right? That's a dangerous formula. And a lot of people are talking about this stuff where, again, like if everything is being outputted in the future by AI, which, okay, like who's establishing the truth? Are there biases in that truth, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that's happening, you know. Just to wrap things up, you know, one of the takeaways that I recommend to people is, look, like we can't be afraid of it, right? We've got to embrace this stuff. So like start, whether you're an institution, whoever, it's like, let's start looking at some of the good stuff here and finding some balances, right? Utilize the tools that are available to you, whether it's, again, to like step one with a lot of universities, a lot of companies, they're in this like mode right now of like, I just need to answer if this is like prevalent in my university, prevalent in my company or not, like the usage. So let's start there. Let's understand how bad or not. If nobody's using it, cool, good for you. You know, you don't have to worry about it. But like understand first. And like as an industry, we're going to have to continue to sort of find solutions to innovate and like tools that are going to help as opposed to just like police. And by the way, like, you know, I asked I asked AI to draw me a picture of what it thought the future of education looked like, and this is what it came up with. It's a weird picture. I don't know what to make of it, Steve. But like,
I think are they in orbit? Where are they?
Yeah, I don't really know. This is the picture that AI painted. I'm like, okay, cool, man.
What I find interesting is that every student has a laptop, right? Whereas I would assume that in the future, that's not a thing, right? It's a different kind.
It hasn't learned about Apple Vision Pro yet, you know. So that's why
we're not sponsored by Apple. We're not sponsored.
Right. You know what is interesting though, even in my personal life, by the way, Steve, like I've been trying to figure out ways to like use you know, things like ChatGPT to help, right? And we can all find ways. So I'll give you a great example. I'm sure this happens to you. People send me great like educational videos, right? Like TED Talk type stuff or whatever. And I'm like, oh man, like I totally want to watch that. I should watch it. I save it somewhere. I don't watch it because it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15-minute videos. I'm like, I don't have time right now, right? And I store it away somewhere. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll come back to it. And I never do, right? What I've started doing recently is if it's a YouTube video, YouTube has like transcriptions now, right? Mm-hmm. I just take the transcription and I put it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a word count limit, so you can do it in Bard, which is Google's, has a much longer limitation there. Put it in, and I'll say, give me the top 10 points. Summarize this in the top 5. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I'm just like looking at these points, and then if I'm like, oh, sometimes I'll learn some really interesting new fact, or I'll learn something new, or sometimes it'll actually prompt me to be like, oh wow, that's super interesting. I want to see what they were talking about here, and I'll go back and watch it. But it's allowing me to process more information and make it bite-sized for me, so I can consume more information than ever before. And it's just, my point is like find ways that it can also help you in your personal life. Like that's the future.
Sure, 100%. And I want to use that as an opportunity to circle all the way back to the beginning, where as I think every speaker who's mentioned here, like we've been in an AI world for many years already, right? I mean, Siri, Google Maps, any like your Amazon, your speaker device in your house, like AI has been a part of our lives.
Your Gmail, by the way.
Yeah, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and now that we have it in the consumer's hands, right? Everybody can touch this genie. I really, really appreciate your talk around how do we embrace this? How do we take that? How do we take those first steps into this wild, wild west to start to make sense of it, right? It's like the beginning of social media, right? Like it was so crazy, and there was a curve there. We're in, we're whatever stage we're in that's what we're experiencing now with AI. So, Shovik, I can't believe that. Thank you so much for taking so much time out of what is, I'm sure, is an incredibly busy day to talk to us about copy leaks, talk to us about how you're approaching this topic. I really hope that you'll be able to join us in the Discord chat down there to answer some Q&A, or if not, have people reach out to you. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you or someone at Copy Leaks?
Yeah, you know what? If you generally want to learn a little bit more about copy leaks, feel free to reach out to sales@copyleaks.com. Otherwise, reach out to me at show@copyleaks.com, and I'll be always happy to answer questions. I do a lot of these, not just talks in education, but also on the enterprise side. And one of the favorite parts of what I do is just having some of these discussions with people where they're like, hey, this is something that I'm seeing that is unique to my institution, my industry. I would love to hear if folks have like unique situations. I love hearing about that, and just like I, as you can tell, I love just hearing about some of the problems out there and seeing how like AI can. Again, I think the only way to solve for some of these things is use AI to solve it, and it's an exciting world. And Steve, thanks so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to our next speaker. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for who has joined us right now. I want to thank Shovik once again for his very insightful, detailed, and I think thought-provoking conversation. His presentation around how Copy Leaks is not only helping their clients, helping enterprises and education institutions, governments, etc., navigate this new era of generative AI, but also I just love kind of the boldness and the honesty around the conversation. There's still lots of questions that we haven't answered, or we don't have a good answer for, or we need to make up our own answer. And I think one of the key ones there is, what is my policy around AI? If I'm an institution, if I'm a team, if I'm a leader, if I'm, whatever, if I'm a person, if I'm just an individual, come over to the Discord chat and join us. So you can see it there on your screen right now. It is there. It says, elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. That will take you to the Discord link. It'll, you can either pop it open in the Discord app, or it can pop up in your browser there. Would really love to have your comments, your thoughts, your experiences, the challenges that you've had. So again, elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. This is what that Discord looks like right now. I'm currently tuned into the resources section right there, where you see my colleague Chris has already started to put some of the resources that we use, some of the resources that Sho mentioned in his talk, etc. You can see there's a couple other channels there in terms of Q&A for presenters, just introducing yourself, etc. But really encourage anybody who's listening right now to come over elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord in order to join us. I am also, just want to give a pitch before we move on to Swagata, who's our next speaker. And again, this one just tickles me because I kind of didn't know what to expect when we created this presentation with her, and to watch the magic. You got to believe me, watch the magic that this person puts together a customized AI chatbot. In the next 20 minutes here, it's absolutely ridiculous in terms of having your brain kind of explode around the possibilities, again, for a small team, for a family, for, a learning and development department, for, a professor or a section at a university, being able to now personalize that. And then it changes the questions and changes the conversations around, what data are we allowing it to see, and what data are we giving it access to, and how are we customizing it so that it actually works for our cohort, etc. Super cool stuff. Before I do that, though, I want to remind everyone that, all of these, let me just add this here. So all of these talks are currently live right now. Excuse me. We just heard Shovik, but also in that bucket around challenges, Joe Pringle, Kate Grimova, and Edgar Aparicio, Kelly Tenney. We have a whole bunch of people who are, this one right here, Dr. Sarah Egan Warren that you see on your screen right now. Incredibly thought-provoking conversations around the challenges that we're seeing, bringing AI into the learning space. They're all live right now for the next 24 hours. Go check them out. Take some time out. If you can't binge watch on that, though, do me the favor, consider coming over and purchasing our All Access Pass, because I'm going to show you what that looks like right now for those of you who have just recently joined us. Here we go, and I'll put it here on the screen. The All Access Pass has all of these presentations already built in. They're already loaded up. And guess what? I'm going to be loading up more in September, in October, in November, in December. Throughout the end of the year, we've have a ton of great content. And it's all of the stuff, right? You can see we have, for the tools of today, we already have, 8, 9 speakers there. Bianca's presentation a little later today, that's going to be coming up. It's already in there. You could watch it right now. Shovik's conversation is already in there. And then, again, Swagata's presentation is already there as well. In addition, not only all of these presentations and all future presentations, but look, you've got all of the presentations from, our 2020 eLearn Success series around designing, instructing, the tech and innovating in online learning. The 2021 and 2020 sessions, again, about online learning. They're not specific to AI, those past ones, but they really are focused on how do you create a super effective, engaging online learning experience, right? So a little pitch there, not obligatory by any means, but definitely a way to get a ton of value for a very little entry fee. But here we are. We're an hour and 22 minutes into our August session right now. We have 2 more presentations. The next one is coming up is from Swagata Ashwani, who is going to be walking us through how to build a chatbot. I just want to give a shout out for people who on both YouTube and LinkedIn right now, like Nupur, thank you so much for chiming in. Darius, thank you so much for chiming in as well. Susan Andrews, loved your question on YouTube there about whether or not, if we can't use it in school, will we use it in work? I'd love to hear other people's thoughts around that. Susan Andrews, Paul Pierce, thanks for chiming in. Lee Gold chiming in as well. And Colleen Grigg, just a few people who are, joining us today in LinkedIn or on YouTube. But now, I've talked this up quite a bit now. So our next speaker is Swagata Ashwani, and I give her the near and not so near bucket. Let's figure out how to build one of these bots. Hello, my name's Ladek, and I'm the principal for e-learning advocacy at Open LMS. The presentation you're about to watch is one part in our AI and Learning Summit. I encourage you to check out all of the talks in this series as we discuss the tools of today, the near and not so near future, and the challenges we need to address around these new technologies. Our expert for this session is Swagata Ashwani. Swagata is a senior data scientist at Boomi with extensive experience in platform integration using advanced data mining and machine learning in Python, SQL, R, and data engineering in Snowflake, Apache, Spark, and Hadoop. Please join me as we welcome Swagata on the main stage for her presentation on customizing GPT models for domain-specific NLP tasks, techniques for fine-tuning and adaptation. Hello, Swagata. Welcome to the main stage here at the AI and Learning Summit. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. And my LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so best way to reach out if you have any questions.
GPT models for domain-specific NLP tasks, techniques for fine-tuning and adaptation. Hello, Swagata. Welcome to the main stage here at the AI and Learning Summit. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I am well. I'm super fantastic. Thank you. We have speakers from all over the world, from Ireland, from Colombia, from Brazil, from Australia. Where do we find you sitting today?
I'm in San Francisco.
Well, San Francisco. Good old. Excellent. I hope that is wonderful here in the middle of June. And so you're going to talk to us about this, customizing GPT models. So here's your presentations on the screen. Why don't you take us away?
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So, hi everyone. My name is Swagata Ashwani, and today I'm going to talk about customizing GPT models for domain-specific NLP tasks, basically to make it simpler. To how do you customize and use the actual OpenAI models for your own use case and kind of create a pretty looking website using something called Streamlit. You won't believe it's going to take you around 10 to 15 lines of code to actually build a small chatbot for yourself. So just a short introduction about myself. I am a senior data scientist with a company called Boomi. We are an iPaaS company. I have a master's from Carnegie Mellon University and around 6 years of experience in AI and ML. I'm really passionate about the NLP space and try to do some research on anything that's state of the art in this domain and keep an eye on anything of the latest trends. If you want to get in touch with me, I'll be sharing my email and LinkedIn here and as well as at the end of the slides. So, I mean, AI doesn't need any introduction, but just for somebody who's getting started with it, artificial intelligence has existed for many, many decades now. But recently, in the past, maybe 7 or 8 years, it has really become super popular and accessible with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and all of these amazing toolkits coming along. Basically, what AI in the simplest format means is that we are trying to mimic how the human brain thinks and executes and make the machine do things that the human brain does, to put it in simpler words. Recently, in the past 8 to 9 months, we have a new term that is buzzing around, which is called generative AI or Gen AI. So generative AI is actually a subset of AI that uses deep learning and machine learning techniques to generate unseen data, but it uses the learning from the data that it has already seen and create something similar, not exactly the same. So it's actually able to create some new data that could be trained from text and audio and different sources of data. It has become really accessible through chat GPT and OpenAI's accessible APIs that we can use. And a lot of companies are right now in a competition to extend this ability into different domains like art and music, to create songs and lyrics and whatnot. So moving on to the crux of our demo and presentation today, we are going to use a toolkit called Streamlit and OpenAI's API to build a simple chatbot. In the first iteration, we will use some simple custom data to make this chatbot, and then we'll also make it a little bit smarter by adding some more lines, very specific, to see how it reacts and when we add some more customization and personalizations. So before I move to the actual code, in order to use any API from OpenAI, we need to create an API key. So what you can do is you can go to this website, platform.openai.com, or just do a Google search for OpenAI API keys, and then you can go and create a new secret key. Once you create a secret key, it will generate a key that you need to save, and you need to use that key in your code. Okay, so for development work, I'm going to be using Visual Studio, but you can use any tool, any development environment. So in this code, what you see is whenever you work with with any IDE or build a code, best practice is to create your own virtual environment. But nevertheless, it's such a simple problem. You can just use your own. No need to create an environment, and only two libraries that we need for this purpose is OpenAI and Streamlit. So if you go to your terminal, you just need to do a pip install of OpenAI and Streamlit. I've already done that, so I'm just gonna skip that part. And then the next line of code is where you will paste your API key that we just generated from the OpenAI website. And in the next line, I have a message. So in this, I need to give a role to my model. And this is very specific. This part of code never changes, so just keep it as is. And then I pass some content inside this. So what I'm trying to do here is I want my chatbot to only answer questions related to food. So my chatbot, when I actually run it, it won't be able to answer any other question that is not related to food. Now, in the next line, next piece of code, this is the format of where I'm kind of formatting the response and telling this code which kind of model that I want to use. Now, in this code, I'm using GPT 3.5 Turbo, but you can experiment and check on the OpenAI website. They have multiple text-based models for text completion. You can use Text DaVinci and try to experiment with different models. Does the response change? GPT 3.5 works really well for me, so I'm going to stick to that. And max tokens is just a parameter that specifies how many number of tokens or keywords is a limit to number of characters. But it's a good practice to keep it not that big, otherwise the response time will increase. So I've kept it 150, which is pretty good for our case. And then it'll just return the message. For when it comes to Streamlit, it's a very useful open source framework that you can use for creating chatbots or actually creating anything that is visually pleasing based on to show the results of your model. So I'm just putting a title here, which is AI chatbot. And then this will be an input where we will actually type in our question, and then the text, whatever response is generated by the bot, it will be shown in another text area. Now, this is a very simple looking UI. A good part is that Streamlit is very easy to use, so you can really experiment and make it more colorful and make more buttons or things like that. So after we sort of complete this code, we need to run this code. And once you run this code, it's able to generate two URLs for you. Like you can see here, it generates a local URL and a network URL. So you can open any of these and both should work, unless if you have any Firefox settings or anything, it might block this network URL. But if not, the local URL always works. So once you get this local URL, you can open it. Let me just make sure you can see my screen. This is how my chatbot looks. I'm using the local URL. And as I said, it's very simple. It's not fancy, but you can go crazy with Streamlit. So yeah, I'm just gonna, since we made sure we specialize our chatbot to answer only food questions, we're gonna see whether that actually works or not. So simple step first, let me ask it a food question. I always wanted to know, actually, where did French fries originate? Oops. Sorry. Let's see what's wrong with my code. All right. Oops, did I not run it? Okay. Let me make sure. Let me rerun this part. Okay. Fingers crossed. It did run before. Okay, I know what the error is. right, there we go. So let's say, where did French fries originate? Right, it's running. Okay, so we have an answer here from the OpenAI API. French fries are believed to have originated in either Belgium or France, hence the name French fries. However, there is some debate in which country truly claim to have created the dish. Nice. So it's able to answer food question. Now let me see if I ask it some other random question. Not related to food, whether it's able to answer or not. Oops. All right. So because we specialized that, we made the bot answer only questions related to food, it's not going to answer anything else. So that works. Next interesting things that I want to try is, let's say I want to add something that's not available in the internet and something which is very domain specific to either my company or some fun project that I'm doing. The best way to do that is, like we had this message, where we specified the content, we can modify the content a little bit and add our own custom content. So what I want to do is I want to add, yes, apart from food, I want to add some information related to a special Indian cocktail that I experimented, and that information is not there on the internet, which says that you have information about an Indian cocktail which is called Harabara Twist. This cocktail is made from rum, cucumber, mint leaves, thyme, coriander, and agave. It's a perfect way to beat the heat and right. So I just added some other information related to a special drink. So now if I ask the chatbot about this drink, it should be able to answer that as well as any questions related to food. If I want my chatbot not to answer anything else apart from this cocktail, I need to remove this line and it will not answer. So let's test whether it's able to answer this question about this special drink that we just added. All right. Just to make sure it doesn't throw an error again, I'm going to rerun it. Okay. So now I'm going to ask the chatbot, hey, can you tell me something about Indian cocktail? Let's see if it's able to pick that up. All right, sure. One popular Indian cocktail is the Harabara Twist, which is made from, exact information that we gave the bot. So like this, you can actually see that apart from what is actually available on the internet, you can also train the chatbot to learn something very specific. And I know another question would be, hey, this is just one line that you just added in that message. There is also a way to add an entire CSV file if your data is big, so that the model is able to learn from that as well. So you can specify in the message the actual CSV path and it will be able to learn from that. So this is how you can actually customize the GPT model and use it to create like a simple chatbot that can either work for any information that already exists in the internet, or you can also make it customized and personalized with your own company information, anything that you would like to add and make it more customizable. All right, that was the end of the demo. If there are any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what I think is the future of generative AI.
Sure. Can I ask you a question then about just, I'm thinking about, I'm going to take your slides on just for a second. First of all, thank you. What was fantastic is I think so few people realize just how, you just did that in 10 minutes. Like that was literally 10 minutes and you built a reasonable, customized chatbot that could be used in a classroom. It could be used in, like you said, like for a really specific training or for, any number of different things. how have you seen that type of application work in, in your work with Boomi? Is that what you're doing for clients? You're customizing it across? Like, are there any specific examples you could give, or I don't know if you can name names or whatever, that
Right.
like maybe even you went, oh, that was interesting, I didn't think of that. Like,
Yeah. So when I saw that chat GPT, how it works, I was really impressed with it. I was like, yeah, this is not very pretty to work on. Well, can I make something really prettier and use create my own chatbot, either for my personal projects or for my work? So we are actually doing both. I do create some simpler chatbots for my own personal side projects, and you name it, I've done on different topics, like I'm really passionate about guitar and music in general. So I've used it to create a musical chatbot that can answer any questions on how to play songs, how to play different strumming patterns and things like that. And for my work as well, we are trying to create something. Of course, with work, we have a lot of legal issues, so we can't really pass the information as is in a CSV file. So we add a layer of security, and that's something, an ongoing research happening on how companies can leverage this open source APIs without compromising on their security aspect. So when that comes, we do need some layer of security added to it, but the process is pretty much as simple as those 10 line of codes, and you have an amazing chatbot created.
And so how would this grow over time? If I were, let's just say I'm a physics teacher and I wanted to create something for either, for a specific task, could I, like, is this a project I could continue to work on and grow over time, and like, continue to grow the library and that kind of stuff?
Definitely. Like, this one is a very simple example that I showed with just specific questions on physics. So when you train on your physics concepts or something like that, you can definitely leverage all the information that's available internet online, because that's what ChatGPT is trained on, like millions and trillions of data already that exist on physics or any other topics. So, and then on top of that, you can add your own data, and like eventually iteratively you can grow and make it even bigger project.
So what are some of the biggest or most common hiccups or challenges that you find either with clients or with an individual who's interested in creating something like this? Apart from, obviously, you do have to have a certain level of coding, even just understanding that interface. But aside from that, like, what are the biggest challenges you see?
Apart from knowing a very little bit about coding, and literally this code is available on the OpenAI website itself. There's like minor tweaks that you need to make just to add your own data. So it's very accessible and straightforward. One of the issues that people are encountering with ChatGPT these days is the issue of hallucination. So ChatGPT is very good at confidently answering something wrong, fundamentally wrong. And there is like some aspect of ethical AI where we see trends that are biased with the answers, like they favor, jobs such as male-dominated jobs are always, it will use the he terms, or like it will not generalize and give like he or she. It will assume that doctor is he and a nurse is she. So those kind of things, there is a bias, and of course we can't blame the model for it. It's on the data that is trained on, and of course, if you look at statistically the data, it'll have more male doctors, I guess. So there is a two problems primarily. One is hallucination. It tends to answer something wrong because it is trained to not give any answer, and it'll just sometimes give something totally unrelated. You ask him what is the weather, and it'll give something not related to weather. But the error rate is very low, and this is a big achievement and milestone from where we were to what it can do. So I still think in the next iterations of models, we'll see like 100% if not 100, but like really good accuracy to solve the hallucination issue. And I know there is a lot of work being done to solve the ethical aspect as well. So we'll get to a better stage soon.
Fantastic. Thanks. Why don't you take us home with your presentation here?
Oops. Right. So like what we were talking about, when exactly like the ethical considerations, I'll talk a little bit about that. I've tried to experiment a lot with trying to ask OpenAI some questions related to, hey, can you crack a joke on male? It's able to crack many jokes on male. But when I ask, hey, crack a joke on female, it shows this feminist side and say, no, that's not a good thing, and I won't do that. So there are concerns about not being it has bias. But again, it's because of the data that it's trained on is biased. So people are working on making it non-biased by adding more representation of different, whether it's male, female, whether it's a problem with race or gender, sex, or any of these things. It's trying to solve all these issues by artificially creating data if doesn't exist and making sure there's good representation and the model is not biased. That is one thing that ethical considerations that's being developed and researched on more and more. So in the next few models that OpenAI or any other company releases, we'll see this issue resolved most likely. Another thing that we should be able to see in future is it's getting at such a fast pace that it's not going to only restrict to text. I'm pretty sure in few, maybe just months, we're going to see something on video as well. And I know a lot of people are working on it. Basically, it will go to an extent that you type a text and it will create a video for you, which is very crazy because generating video is hard. And I feel all the content creators will be looking out for such kind of things because their job is at risk. But yeah, it'll go to a stage where not only text, you'll be able to generate images, audio, videos, and all other forms of modality. And last but not the least is impact on society. So we have seen amazing side of AI, but there also exists some section of society things. It's going at such a fast pace that it can be harmful as well. And it's true, there could be a dark side of AI where we've already seen that universities are struggling with students actually learning concepts, and they are becoming too dependent on these generative tools and not really focusing on learning. At the same time, some people are misusing AI, and we've seen a lot of growth in scams. People are using AI for the very wrong reasons. So there is something we have to be very careful and consider the impact of society, and not create some sort of mechanism where we can track on when it's going wrong and how we can take the appropriate measures to not let that happen. So yeah, that's all I had. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Swagata, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very, very busy day to give us this presentation, not only showing us how easy it is to create a customized chatbot for, a class, a training division, a company, big or small. That's going to be super helpful. And then, for sharing your thoughts about where things are going in the future. You did not show another slide about how to get a hold of you, though. So what's a good way to, what are your contact information?
Yeah, so I have my email and my LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so best way to reach out. If you have any questions, you want to collaborate or anything, that's the best way to reach out to me.
Fantastic. And we'll also put that in the Discord as well for everyone. But thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Okay, there you go. As promised, I hope that you were as blown away. I don't know, as excited about that presentation as I was when I first saw it, and even now, right now, I'm still just amazed. We kind of had over a 20-25 minute period. Swagata essentially just built a bot for us. Now, granted, it was fairly simple, but she showed that once you get that little, that essentially that fairly straightforward code base together, it's up to you to see where, the sky's the limit in terms of using this for a class or a department or an institution or a company, right? Like you can then train, your on whatever data set you want, or you can limit it on whatever data set that you want, whatever conversation you want. Come over to the Discord that we have and tell us what your thoughts are on it. You can see on your screen right now, elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. That will take you to, that link will forward you over to a Discord server. You can either view it in your browser or you can view it in the Discord app. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear how you're already using these AI tools in your practice, and what could this mean for you? How could this change your AI game at your institution, in your class, in your training department, etc.? I know over on the eLearn podcast, we've had several other guests who have talked about AI bots and chat bots that they've used in order to do reinforcement training, to do upskilling, to kind of sort of have suggestive what's the word, prompts that are going out regularly to staff or a team, about, hey, have you learned this week? Or, hey, just checking in, how do you feel? And then being able to learn and grow from that. So I'd really love to learn how people are, using these tools and what the challenges are that you're bumping up against. Or, for instance, one of the challenges that Swagata to put on the table there is, what do you do about making sure you're not sending any of your proprietary data to, a public server like Open AI? That, I'm not going to pretend that I know the complexities behind making sure that you have those security layers. But the way that Swagata put in there, she said, look, if you build those security layers in, there you go. It's ready to go and available for you. I don't know. There's so many things to talk about there. Anyway, our next guest is Bianca Raby. Before we go there, I want to remind everyone that, here we go. I'm going to share my screen again. You could already be checking out Bianca's talk right now. You don't have to listen to me drone on. Or if you had the all access pass, you could come over here, click on Bianca's presentation, and Shazam, there you go. You push play on the video, and you are kind of cooking with gas in being able to watch those presentations. You can also check out any of the other presentations that we've already put out there in our June session, in our July session. And then with this all access pass, we already have the September sessions ready to go. I'm going to put them in there in a couple of weeks, and boom, they're ready for you. You'll be notified, and Shazam, you're able to view those. The same thing is true with Swagata's presentation. The same thing is true with Shovik's presentation that you just saw earlier. And then, of course, as I've mentioned a few times today already, all of the sessions from 2022, 2021, and 2020 are also there as well. So, super high value for a minimal investment. Next, that's my game. So come over to the Discord, elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. Consider the all access pass, because that's a way to get, if you haven't been able to sit here for the last, 2.5 hours or 2 hours, and for the next hour with Bianca coming up, these presentations are there ready for you. And other than that, come over and chat with us. Tell us about your challenges. Coming up right now is Bianca Raby. She is a, award-winning designer, learning designer, learning technologist, runs a company called Opida. And she's going to take us through how she has been using and thinking about using these generative tools in her design process. So without further ado, I give you Bianca. Hello, my name is Ladik, and I'm the principal for e-learning advocacy at Open LMS. The presentation you're about to watch is one part of our AI in Learning Summit. I encourage you to check out all of the talks in this series as we discuss the tools of today, the near and not so near future, and the challenges we need to address around these new technologies. Our expert for this session is Bianca Raby. She is a passionate learning designer, serial entrepreneur, and a digital education strategist. As the CEO of Opida, a global digital education agency, she works to raise the bar of online learning daily and believes this in-demand emerging profession will help solve the educational challenges of today and the future. Bianca also debuted as a writer in 2021 with her book, Online Learning, So You Want to Be a Learning Designer, which she wrote to inspire educators to become expert learning designers. So please join me as we welcome Bianca on the main stage for AI for Learning Design. Hello, Bianca. Welcome to the main stage. Thank you so much for being a presenter here at the AI and Learning Summit. I am, this is all about you, so I'm ready for you to take us away.
all about me. Thank you, Ladek. Very excited to be here to talk about AI for learning design. Learning design is something I'm very passionate about, and obviously AI has come and taken the world by storm. So I just want to acknowledge straight away, thank you for everyone who's watching, because I guess you're ahead of the curve, because the stuff is it's big stuff, and it's easy to put your head in the sand. But if you're here listening, you have taken your head out of the sand. So well done. All right.
You want me to put the slides up on the stage here?
Yeah, please put the slides up. So just a very quick background as to who am I, why you should potentially listen to me for the next 40 minutes. So I'm the CEO and the founder of a digital education agency called OPEDA. We've been running for just over 4 years, which means that we have been building hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of courses for lots of different training providers, higher education providers, private providers, universities, et cetera, et cetera. So we're sort of, our specialty is the learning design side of of designing a course and kind of project managing that and working with subject matter experts. So a couple of years ago, I brought out a book called Online Learning. So you want to be a learning designer, because I really feel passionate about the learning designer being the real key to increasing the quality of the online education that we have out there. And that is still the same case, even with AI. I still believe that. And I'm going to convince you of that throughout this presentation today. And I have a YouTube channel because I'm an ex-teacher, and I work to help teachers understand how to kind of, if they want to transition into more of a digital career, or they want to upskill in their digital literacies, they're interested in the learning design field. So I basically, hack learning design for teachers in that channel. So you can find me on those 3 places. All right, enough about that. How am I going to run today? So this is going to be 3 tools that we're going to go in a deep dive into, and they're all practical examples of how to use the tool. So first is Colossian Creator, which is a AI video producing tool. The second is obviously ChatGPT. Couldn't do this presentation without talking about that wonderful invention. And the third one is Beautiful.ai, which is what you are seeing me build this presentation slide deck on. So I used a tool to create this, to teach myself how to use the tool so I can show you how to use the tool. Et voila.
I'm gonna ask right off the bat. Most everybody knows ChatGPT has a free version and a paid version. Are both of these the same type of freemium models where they've got a free version, but then there's a paid version as well? Or
Beautiful AI, I think I'm on a trial. I should have figured that out. I think it's $14 a month. And this must be the trial because I just opened it last week. So I think this is the proper version. I think you have to pay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'd say so. When you look at the features, it's like, I don't think they get that for free. So, yeah.
Excellent.
All right. So we're going to jump into Colossian. And before we do that, I'm going to just set some context. So Colossian team reached out to my team at OPEDA, and we wanted to talk about, because I know we do a lot of video production. So we have a production studio that we do a lot of video work with. And when all this came out, I guess my first reaction was, oh my God, I love producing videos. Don't take this job away from me, robot. But then I spoke to the Colossian guys, and we thought we would do a bit of a trial. So we had a video that I had already obviously recorded for a course. It was a module introduction video. So these are sort of the ones that you do. They're not very high production value. Like, you don't have to do a lot of fancy stuff. They're more just to say, hi, everybody, I'm here. You've got a person behind this course, and welcome to the course. It's something we do definitely in self-paced online courses to give a face and a bit of an energy to the course. So I just produced a bunch of these. So what I did is that I gave the Colossian team one of my videos. I gave one of my team members one of the video, and I said, go on to my team member. I said, go onto the Colossian Creator and use the free version and see what you can produce with the free robot. And I asked the Colossian guys, take your software to the maximum and see what you can produce, right? How good you can make it. We're the ones that actually built the tech. Yeah?
I already love this challenge. This is fantastic. Nice. Yeah.
It was super fun. So I'm going to show the first 30 seconds of each of the clips one by one. All right. So what I'm looking for you to think about is what works well and what doesn't. Okay. So, and I will preface all of this in saying there's something weird about watching a robot. We get that. So if you can just take the weirdness away, I'll explain that in a minute why we feel like it's a bit weird watching a robot. But if you can objectively watch the 3 clips and just see what you think of them. Okay? You ready, Ledek and audience who is in this?
I'm actually going to go full screen here so that we can, no distraction, watch them.
All right, one after another, okay?
Welcome to Learning Designers as Investigators. Learning designers need strong analytical skills, a natural curiosity for how people learn, and a willingness to problem solve. These attributes and skills allow LDs to effectively evaluate learning contexts under any circumstances.
Right, so that's the first 16 seconds of one, obviously with a human, aka me.
I was just going to say, was that a robot?
Funny. Let's hope no one gets them mixed up, eh?
Welcome to Learning Designers as Investigators. Learning designers need strong analytical skills, a natural curiosity for how people learn, and a willingness to problem solve. These attributes and skills allow LDs to effectively evaluate learning contexts under any circumstances.
Okay, so that's the one done on the free version with my colleague with no training in Colosseum. He spent about 2.5 hours putting that together.
Welcome to Learning Designers as Investigators. Learning designers need strong analytical skills, a natural curiosity for how people learn, and a willingness to problem solve. These attributes and skills allow learning designers to effectively evaluate learning contexts under any circumstance.
All right, and that's the third one where they push their software to the limit. I won't watch the whole thing, but you can watch all of this on our blog. So Ledek, because you're my only audience right now, how do you feel about those 3?
I think, as you said, there is a distinction between the human and the robotic version, but from the objectivity, like what I loved about how they designed it was the presenter wasn't necessarily the focus of attention the entire time. So that really brought a new feeling to the second piece. And also there was movement in the design. There was just the way that the material was presented. So again, it drew away from the fact that there was a presenter, there was a speaker, but my attention was elsewhere and I was engaged in the video, not necessarily looking at the AI. Yeah,
for sure. And how do you feel about the guy and his voice as opposed to the first girl?
He seemed a little more realistic. I think that if I were to really concentrate, the thing that always throws me off is the lips, because you're wanting the lips to match the words exactly, and it's just that far away, right? So, but yeah, he clearly had a much more tuned connection to the text.
Yeah, I might just actually play a little bit more of this one because this one's the best one. So maybe just do another 10 seconds.
In this Learning Bite, we explore the following topics: contemporary learning design, understanding the learner experience, and the intersection of delivery and design. At the end of the Learning Bite,
I like how they put him in the corner in the little bubble. That's kind of cool.
You will be able to explain the evolution of the role of the learning designer.
So they did follow a lot of my post-production notes on this as well. Where I said, look, this is the notes. This is all the graphics. I gave them the full raw files of everything we did. And I said, do you now with that. So this is what we got. All right. So there is this thing called Maya's Principles of Media, right? So you may have heard of this. This is the principles just in a list. Well, we don't need to go through them all today, but there's 12, but there has been added another 3, but they're not really as relevant to today's conversation anyway. So I just left them off. But you can go and look up this on the Googles anytime you like. So what we did is we took those 3 videos. So human, obviously, is me, AI V1 and AI V2, and we ranked them against these principles. So some of these principles are not applicable to this particular piece of media. So what I want to call attention to is just the ones where all 3 videos hit the same and when there's a big difference, right? Because remember, we're being really objective here. So in coherence, all of them get a 10 because it was a scripted video. right? So it's very structured. It has a formula, and every single one of those module introductions has the same formula, and it follows the same rhythm, right? So that's the coherence principle. Signaling, that also is pretty same. I think in AI version 1, we were limited in the ability to do the signaling because of the free version of the tech, not because of the AI itself, right? Then we look at redundancy. I can't actually remember that rule to the deepest of knowledge, so I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to spatial congeniality. This is about when corresponding words and pictures are at the screen, right? And again, I think we were limited by the free version in AI version 1. And the temporal stuff is around it's around the way that you position images and text. So let's go to the one where the human beats the AI hands down. Image, right? Of course, image is going to be, hang on, what does it say? People don't necessarily learn better from a multimedia lesson when they're, okay. I don't think I quite understand that one. I might have to defer to my colleague on that one. Sorry, team. But I thought the image was about what you're talking about, Ledek, with the voice and the lips.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the general idea is that AI version 2 doesn't score that badly. Is probably the key here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we are being objective, right? If we're taking away the whole weirdness of it being an AI, it actually is a pretty good video if you go against these criteria. All right.
Well, I think, especially with those criteria, one of the things that we're going to see is, as a learner is, let's just say that you're going to go through 10 modules. As you get to module 3 or 4, this is going to be, you're going to get used to it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And you're going to cotton to it. And so more and more, it's going to be that, okay, this is how this works, and this is what I'm going to get, And so I think that there's going to be an acceptance curve that's pretty rapid in this. But I'm
the words out of my head. What a great segue, because this is the concept of the uncanny valley.
We did not practice this.
No, we did not clean this up, but that was a great segue. Thank you. So the uncanny valley is that weird feeling you get when you're watching a robot. Yeah. It's a common unsettling feeling people experience when androids, human robots, or audiovisual simulations closely resemble humans in many respects that are not quite realistic. Yeah. So that's why I said if you could try and take that away, this weird feeling. Now, I'm on the camp where of you, Ledek, that you just kind of alluded to, is that we're going to get used to this. This uncanny valley is just part of our human evolution, and we're going to get over it as humans, because it's going to be so much in our face. I bet we all didn't think we would be able to handle having a phone in our pocket all day, every day, and having a computer there and thinking that we'd be able to use that and get used to that. There are so many things as humans that we have slowly gotten used to that now become part of our life. So right now, the uncanny valley is the thing that's freaking everybody out, because everyone goes, I don't want to watch a robot. I don't want to watch a robot. And we'd probably rather watch a person, right? But at the same time, there are reasons and there are situations where the AI can work. So here are some of the situations where I believe an AI bot can work for learning in that particular way, in the video presentation, right? So these are the things that where the person presenting is not key to the message, right? So it doesn't matter that it was Bianca Raby, the CEO of Opeda, reading out that script. It had no bearing on me, right? So sure, I am the one who's owning the course in the company, right? For sure. And it's nice to have a representative, but it really doesn't influence the learners at all that it's me on that camera. I could have grabbed anyone from the co-working space, put them on the camera, told them to read it out, and it wouldn't have mattered to you as a learner, okay? If I am being on camera because I have a certain experience and I'm connected to the learning in a certain way, and I'm bringing in case studies and stories and emotions and stuff because it's about me, like my YouTube channel, I can't put a robot in my YouTube channel because it's me. I'm telling you guys, listen to me because I have stuff to say to you because I've been where you are and I've, blah, 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 right? So there's a story connected to that. The second one is that it can work when content is instructional only, right? So say you're learning a new technology like I did this week with Beautiful.ai, and I need to understand how to add a picture to a slide. I don't need a person to tell me that. I can just listen to the sound is pretty good. You might not have even known that wasn't a person if you just listen to the sound, especially in the third one. Number 3, deadlines are tight. Sometimes people have to produce stuff very, very quickly. And sometimes that's due to mismanagement of projects. Sometimes that's due to the market demanding something very, very quickly. Now, we put together an AI for Teachers course in 4 weeks at the start of the year. Now, at the time, we used 2 videos of me in person, and we used one from Colossian to show the difference, right? It just so happened I was going in the studio, right? So time wasn't a factor. I could still deliver some on camera because that's what I like doing, and it didn't cost us that much more because we were already going into camera anyway. But if I had to create that really quickly and I wasn't in the studio, say I was traveling somewhere, I could have used the Colossian the whole way through and just thrown it in together. 4, no access to a trained presenter of a studio. Now, I have spent 2.5 years on camera, right, practicing. Now, anyone who's gone on camera knows that you don't look like that on your first go.
Amen. Amen.
Right? So my first couple of videos, my first 6 months of videos, I look back and I go, oh my goodness, right? But hey, I was giving it a go and I had to practice, and that's part of the learning curve, and that's part of being human, and we love that part. And I'm not saying nobody should practice this. It's a really good skill to have, to be able to walk into a studio and look straight down the camera and deliver something as natural as possible is an awesome skill to have in this day and age. However, we don't all have access to a trained presenter. We may have people lying around that are happy to do it, but that could be the first time. And I've seen some pretty awful videos that I've tuned out of because the person has not been trained. So if I'm going to tune out because the person's not trained, but the AI would give me a better opportunity to tune in, what do we want for our learners, right? Number 5, maybe the content needs to be agile. Maybe, like the AI for Teachers course, it has to be movable. Like, we may change it constantly, right? It's content that's rapidly evolving, especially for module introductions. So I generally don't tell clients to put too much money into those module introductions because they're often obsolete once a change happens to the course. So something like a module introduction is a good thing to maybe use a bot for, because as soon as something changes in the course, so say, they get some student feedback, they do an iteration, and module 4 changes to module 5 and they blend 2 modules together, all your videos are then obsolete if you've gone into a studio. Right. And that is extremely costly, right? So if you've got agile content, maybe you can do it with a robot. And also number 6, which is very cool, maybe the content needs to be in multiple languages. Now, you can also do that with a person, obviously. I could be dubbed, right? But it looks a bit dumb, right? So you could, if you use a robot, maybe they can dub it so that and I'm pretty sure the software can do this, that the mouth moves at the same time as the new language, right? If it was me being dubbed, you'd still see me speaking in English with whatever language over the top, right? So there are really good situations where this can work. And that's what I want to.
Can I throw in 2 other things, 2 other thoughts that are popping up for me as well? Is one is anyone who's thinking about, not about necessarily themselves, but the generations that are taking over the workforce right now and coming out. They were raised on Minecraft and Roblox, right? Like, this is, that is a normalcy for them, right? And so you and I talking here, I believe I probably got a decade on you or something like that. I can still say, wow, that's kind of corny because I can remember pre-internet, but most people who are entering the workforce and the glut of the workforce right now, that's just not the case. And the second thing is that we have YouTube and TikTok and whatnot to thank for the fact that raw and non-professional is okay.
Yes.
Right. And so as long as we're complete and have the, a structure and outcomes and, we're measured, being picture perfect, studio perfect actually may go against you in a lot of cases.
It definitely does for advertising. There is definitely a bit different situations where it can go against you being at too high quality, right? Awesome. Okay, so that's Colossium. Go check it out. Now, our favorite chat bot.
You're here, yeah.
Part of our being part of our vocabularies. Who would have known when we woke up in 2023 that we would be talking about this little item? Yeah, all year. So I'm not even going to explain it because you're going to watch this summit and everybody's going to explain it. So we're going to go straight into a use case. So this is a really awesome use case that I was blown away by last week, actually. This was just a fresh use case. So one of the things that we do, obviously, as learning designers, is we like to provide structure, and we like to give introductions, and we like to tell them what we're going to tell them, and then tell them what we told them, right? The old adage in learning. So last week, I went and produced a live course, basically. So we actually produced it on the spot without post-production. That's a whole other story and a whole other segment. But we have module videos, and they were about 10 minutes long, and they were an interview, right? So they weren't scripted. So I didn't have the transcript. I had the interview file uploaded into Wistia from my producer. So what I did is I ordered the transcript from the AI bot in Wistia. That cost me $2.50.
Okay, just so everybody knows, Wistia is an online video platform like Vimeo, YouTube, but it allows to have private videos, basically.
Yeah, it's our number one choice for educational videos because of the analytics, the data, the way it's set up. It's very, very cool. So yes, it's basically a Vimeo. So you go order the transcript, $2.50. The bot does it. Takes about a minute. They gets you a file like this in step 2. So you get this, whatever that thing is called. I think we've got a H in it, whatever that type of file is. Not as HTML, but it's something else. Oh, text, TXT. So
Okay.
TXT file. So you just open that up on your computer. I pressed copy, and then I threw it into ChatGPT, the free version. I don't have the paid one. And I wrote at the beginning, summarize in the second person. So my prompt was summarize in the second person. I pasted it. I didn't read it. I didn't do any editing. I pasted it. And in 30 seconds, I got this. In this module, you are welcome to join a discussion about living and dying. Martin O'Toole, the author of How to Die Happy, is presenting to share his insights. He explains why he wrote the book. It's perfect.
Yeah, nice. I love these aha moments. They're so cool.
I did not do a single bit of editing to this text yet, right? So I wanted to give it to you guys raw. I'm probably going to go in and just really sit with them because I've got someone who went and did all of the videos for me. So now my job as a senior learning designer on this project is to just go in and review them. I don't have to write them. If I was to do this exercise as a person, I would have had to open the video and watch it again. Because even though I was the interviewer, I mean, we did 20 videos over 6 hours. I'm not going to remember what I did in video 1. So I would have had to watch it again because I'm not a computer. I'm a person. I would have had to watch the whole thing again, make dot points as I was watching. Then I would have had to sit there and craft all the sentences and structures, right? Now that, sure, it's not a bad task. It's kind of a nice task to do. But do I really need to do that? No. I've already been in the content. I'm not losing anything from not doing it. And as the learner, I can produce this course quicker. So that's one example. Now, number 2, scenario-based learning. So sorry about that being very small. Again, I'm going to show you, I've been experimenting with this software, and for some reason I couldn't get that image to get any bigger because I'm using a certain type of slide. So the prompt was, create a scenario whereby learners have to decide on the most appropriate course of action. The situation should involve a warehouse safety concern at a paper company. Right? That was my prompt. I'm not a prompt engineer. I've written probably just as many prompts as you have in the last 6 months, right? That's all I did. The response. So the scenario, warehouse safety concern at a paper company. You work as a supervisor of a large paper company that operates a warehouse, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty good, right? There's a rain, it talks about there was a flood last night and water got in and blah, 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 okay? Now, obviously, if you're working in a certain context, you would give it a bit more context to the prompt, right? I just threw that out there.
Of course, yeah.
Then I said, okay, we'll turn this into a multiple choice question with 4 possible responses. It did. What course of action should the team take to address the warehouse safety concern at the paper company? A, B, C, D, right? And then I said, well, what's the answer? Right? Because I'm not an expert in, work health and safety at a paper company. And the chatbot said, it's A, evaluate the area and alert the maintenance team. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I want you to tell me why it's the answer. So we're going to teach through the quiz. Tell me why the other options are not correct, chatbot, right? Because one of the great things about multiple choice questions is you can teach through the quiz, because you can go, if it's wrong, so if someone selected B, you would have that pop up and say, no, a B is incorrect because blah, 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 blah. Right? That's one thing I always ask my LGs to go an extra mile with when they're doing multiple choice. Don't just say no, not right. Use an opportunity to teach it or bring them back to the content. Now, this whole process took me under 5 minutes. So I'm not saying this is where you would leave it as a learning designer. No way. As a learning designer, I would be now going in and bulking it up, looking at the learning outcome, maybe asking the chatbot to realign to the learning outcome, maybe adding a bit of more value. I'd be adding some spice to it, right? So it's not done here. It's just got me 70% of the way, so I can take it the rest of the way with my learning design brain.
Yeah, it's taken a day of work down to an hour of work, and now that you can actually add your real value as a learning designer.
Exactly. We can add our real value instead of doing kind of, more menial tasks. Like again, it's not really important for me to sit there and come up with a scenario, right? What's important is that the learners get something that's really solid, that does teach the outcome, and that my job is to make sure that it doesn't teach the outcome. So great. And then I did something fun, because obviously I don't know if anyone figured out paper company, warehouse. What's Bianca been watching lately? Oh, she's been watching The Office. So
nice.
Right? Been binge watching a little bit of The Office lately for some light comic relief. So what I did is I said to the chatbot, well, hey, do the scenario in the voice of Michael Scott, and then do it in the voice of Dwight Schrute. And here we go. So if you want to add some comic value to your learning, which is also nice because people like to laugh, we sometimes forget, and we get really serious, and we forget that the people on the other end of the people learning are also humans who love laughing, right? So we can be a little bit funny. So we could actually put this entire scenario in the voice of either Michael Scott or Dwight Schrute, and give the students a bit of a giggle. So that's just one other way that the chatbot can bring some joy to our life as well.
I'll be honest with you, I often forget about this particular aspect of prompt engineering, where it's, I think it's also because I live in an academic world so often that lighten it up, I know one of our colleagues here at Open LMS, he loves to do things in like Foghorn Leghorn. I don't know if you know who that is from, and so, just taking the most serious, leadership document and turning it into, something that Mickey Mouse would say is fantastic. So
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we never thought that YouTube, the number one thing people would search for on YouTube, would be cat videos when they created YouTube, right? So let's make ChatGPT the thing that we all do silly voices. Right? Why not? Yeah, humans always have a way of making something work for them. So make it work for you. And if you're not a very funny person, this can help you be funny.
100%.
Right? All right. On to beautiful AI. So tool 3. This is just from them. This is why use it. Well, it is fast, but it will only be fast once you learn, which I'm about to talk about. It's better. Well, I guess it is a visual storytelling. So what it does is it's set up everything. It's preset everything according to design rules. So everybody's seen a terrible PowerPoint slide deck, right? Your eyes hurt when it opens because someone just puts stuff everywhere. Highlight, colors, too many images, chaos. This will limit chaos. So if you need to give a limitation to somebody, this is a good way to do it. Is that we'll set it up to go with our user experience design rules. It's beautiful. I think you would say it's quite a nice slide deck. It's very crisp. It's very clear, right? And I still haven't learned how to push it to its limits, by the way, obviously, because I'm in like learning curve of step 1. And it was quite fun, actually, because every time I had to do something, I had to go, oh, which template should I use? Oh, this could be do this. I could do this way. And I had to do a lot of experimenting. And then when I saw the finished product, I was like, oh, okay, that kind of works, right? So it can be a little bit of fun if you've got that kind of nerdiness to you. I want to just explain why it's an AI tool, right? Because there are two types of ways that AI is being used: consumer-generated and embedded generative. Sorry, that should say generative. Sorry, that's my bad. No, actually, no, it should say generative. No. Yeah, so consumer-generated and embedded generative. So this is an embedded generative AI tool because it's part of the system. So the system has taken the core code. So beautiful AI team have taken the core code of ChatGPT and they've gone and stuck it in. I'm very not technical when it comes to how they do this. I'm just explaining what's happening. So they've gone and embedded it into the software. And I guess they are customizing it and supporting it, and they're actually training it internally. So they've sort of like taken the core code and whatever. And so inside of this, I'll just give you 3 examples. So I went and I thought, well, let's see how it would go changing the tone or changing up the text inside the slide, inside the presentation. So in a text box, you can write your text, and then you can click on that little alien looking thing, and you can say rewrite. And then it rewrote it to this. So the first text is being a bit frustrated, like it's got a bit of a tone to it. Thanks for the heads up about the delay. Oh, great, just what I needed, another setback in this never-ending project. Fantastic, right? Then I said, rewrite it. I'm not sure about how I feel about the delay. It seems this project will never end. So it's a little bit lighter, yeah? Then I said, okay, change the text to be longer. Not really sure how I feel. We've been experiencing most feels like right? So you can see here what you can do inside the tool. So in this instance, you don't have to go off to the chatbot and out of the system. So the idea is they're building the AI into the systems. So nobody has to go and have ChatGPT on the side and go, oh, make this more friendly, make this longer, make this, You're doing it inside the system, okay? And the other one, the consumer one, is the ones like ChatGPT, all the ones that we can just get off the shelf. So they're not embedded, they're just there to be used, yeah? So that's a way that you can, so most of beautiful AI is about design. It's not really using AI, but it has this embedded tool. And I'm showing you this because I think this is only going to get more. They're gonna build out and see more and more examples of how the AI. Soon enough, you'll be typing in a slide and the AI might pop up like the old paperclip and say,
clip me,
yeah.
back, yeah.
And it might say, I can see that your tone, you've got too much, your tenses are wrong here. Can I correct it? You might go, okay, sure, little bot, you can correct my tense for me. Thank you.
Sure. We've seen that with things like Grammarly, or even most people see it in Gmail now, where it suggests text and those kinds of things. It's all, it's going to be baked in.
So this is when you embed it in, for sure. So I put this picture up here to talk about learning curve. So the reason I wanted to put myself through a learning curve in order to present this today is that I wanted to explain the resistance that there was, because we all have resistance to technology. So I had already decided when Ladek approached me about this that I would learn a tool to present, but I hadn't decided which tool. And then last week I found out about this one, and I sat down last Friday afternoon to start putting this together. And there were about 3 times in the first 20 minutes where I thought, nah, I'm going back to Google Slides, and I opened up my templates in Google and I started doing it, right? Because I was frustrated. And then I went, no, this is the point. Just because you don't know how to do something in this tool doesn't mean you won't learn quick enough, right? Because every tool is going to have its own intuition. Now, once we've used enough technology, we become better at picking up tools quickly, right? So I will disclaim here that I've got so much SaaS products and I have been embedded in tech for a long time. So my learning curve of 2 hours could take somebody more like 4 or 5 if they're not as averse in tech, right? Because I kind of think I can think like a computer, like I have kind of intuitively know what it's about to do. However, there was a few things with this one that were driving me mental. And I thought, nah, if I can't do this, if it won't let me do this one thing, I'm going on back to Google, right? But I persisted and here we are. So again, probably not the best presentation I've ever done in my life, but still okay. I didn't give up. I'm still here. And I wanted to just show you these 2 funny predictions I found online, because I want to remind everybody of what people were saying about the internet before the internet became the internet that we know now. So this is a few funny predictions in 1995. The truth in No online database will replace your daily newspaper. No CD-ROM can take the place of a competent teacher, and no computer network will change the way the government works. The director of the MIT Media Lab predicts that we'll soon buy books and newspapers straight over the internet. Yeah, right. Sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second one from this guy at the Newsweek. So this is a public, this is very popular news article. This was the narrative at the time. What internet hucksters won't tell you is the internet is one big ocean of unedited data without any pretense of completeness, lacking editors, reviewers, and critics. The internet's become a wasteland of unfiltered data. You don't know what to ignore and what's worth reading. Now, his second sentiment, there's a little bit that's true right now. It's still a wasteland.
Yeah, sure.
You still have to be very, very careful. However, this was the sort of critics that we were getting for the internet. And so what we need to remember is that yucky learning curve that I went through just for this tool, we are all going through collectively with AI, and it will pass, right? Just like it passed for me at hour 2.5 when I finally went, okay. And then I actually put it down, came back the next day and opened a different slide deck that I needed to do, worked on that, got a bit more skill, came back into this one and went, oh, I can now make that slide better because I just learned how to do that over here. So I had to use it for 2 different use cases to aggregate that learning to be able to get to where we are here. This is exactly what AI is about right now. It's playing, experiment. We're in a collective experimental phase. So I'm encouraging people to just see it as that. Don't be so hard on yourself. But when you get to that moment where you were like me, you're about to open your other slide deck and say, bugger it, I quit. Push through. Because everybody else is pushing through. And we're going to all have to, because this is not going away and there is no amount of quitting that's going to stop it from happening.
Do you have a prescription or a suggestion for people who are learning, who are in the audience right now, about how much time either you're taking or you're recommending to your clients? Like, is it an hour a week? Is it 10% of their time to say, look, this is a skill set you need to build tomorrow. Clearly you're super passionate about this. You're already on the curve. Is there a prescription there that you would recommend?
I think encouraging, if you are a leader of teams, I especially would encourage you to have AI conversations weekly within your chats. Just say, hey, I found this new tool. Look what I did with it, right? So model experimenting. Yeah. What we've done internally is that I tasked 3 or 4 of my seniors to go off. And I gave them a time limit of research, and I gave them 2 quick clicky questions they had to answer. And I then made them present back with 15 minutes to us. So I gave them parameters to go and research and play, to then come up with a roadmap of how they were going to work with an AI tool over the next coming months. And so then what we're doing is we're checking back in with each other and saying, okay, so what did you learn last week? Right? So we're doing a lot of sharing, not taking the burden on ourselves. If I watch a really good video, I will share it with the core people, but I'll say started over here started at point at the 30-minute mark, it gets really good for you, right? So I'm doing that to try and keep the time down. But there's the thing, we're saving time, so we're making up time with learning, right? So I would say every week, really give yourself an opportunity to try a tool, whether it's just trying to use ChatGPT again for another reason, right? Like, look at a way to use it again. Go, okay, I've got to do this thing. What could an AI tool help me with? And then you'll find you'll naturally think like that, and you'll get tabs up on your screen. You'll go, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can use that one. So at least an hour or 2 a week. It's really going to benefit you down the track, because again, and also watch as many things as you can. Obviously, you're in this conference, so that's great. But you'll be surprised at what you pick up just from listening to other people talk about what they're doing, right? More practical stuff.
Fantastic. Bianca Raby of OPEDA. I always have to think twice about that. Thank you so much for your presentation today. Oops, I will put your...
That's right, just the contact if anyone wants to find me.
Absolutely.
And again, I couldn't figure out how to take the map off. So yeah, everyone knows now I live in Bali.
There you go. Again, we're a global audience. No worries at all.
Yeah.
So, some
yeah,
people
but these are the ways.
Yeah, people
get me on LinkedIn, best.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the presentation today. Really, really appreciate it.
No worries. That was great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, folks, there you have it. That was today's AI and learning session from Open LMS. I really encourage anybody who's still on the stream right now, or if you're listening to the recording of this, come over and join us in our Discord chat, which is at elearnmagazine.com/AIL Discord. There are already a ton of resources, questions, answers, comments, experiences, pontifications around this space from, the June and July sessions, which is a total of 23 presenters. And now with these 3 new presentations today, we've got 26 in the bag. And so, come over, check out the comments that are happening over there. I want to thank everyone who stopped by today. William Hunter, thank you so much for the feedback. Really, really appreciate. I'm glad that you enjoyed the presentations and that you took away value, because that's why we're here. Oh, Shazam, there I am. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. Leave us a comment thank you for putting your comment there over in YouTube. Really appreciate it. Napur Agrawal, thank you so much for your comment. Darius Kronusionis, sorry for your last name. Thank you for joining us as well. Susan Andrews, Paul Pierce, Legal, Colleen Grigg. Thank you to everyone who joined us and then participated as well. Come over. There's hundreds of your colleagues in that Discord server. Come join us. A couple more pitches for you. Just to make sure that you have all of the resources and opportunity that, we're putting out there. Like, this is what, we don't do this just for the fun of it. We do this because we really want to make sure that we're adding value to the community that we're building around this conversation of AI and learning. And so, one more pitch here for our all access pass. The vault is open. It is available to you right now. Fairly small fee in order to get in there, and all of the videos are available to you from today, from July, from the June launch, everything that's coming up in September, October, November, December, that will all be in there as well. And then finally as well, you have all of the presentations from 2020, 2021, and 2022. So we're talking something around 150 presentations right now, all focused on how do we do online learning better? How do we engage? How do we design? How do we deliver? What's the best tech to use, etc. Come over, join us over there, and give it a shot. Finally, thank you very much to Open LMS, the people who are putting on this conference, as well as Ninja Tropic, who helped us with those videos there. You can check them out over at Ninja Tropic. And we will be back in September. I believe it's September 27th. To have the next session of the AI and learning series. So please join us then. Until then, go to that Discord server, check us out at elearnmagazine.com. And in the interim, don't forget that every week you can listen to me at least once, if not twice, on the eLearn podcast, where we talk about all things learning at this stage, but mostly about, how do you create killer online learning outcomes? Some great guests. We just had Lisa Avery from Lynn Benton Community College. We have Lizard Brain Learning last week. We had Matt Donovan from GP Strategies. So many great experts in this field who come and share 35, 45 minutes at a time to answer one question around this great space of online learning. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.